and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hanson, joined by Matt Bertz down at the end of the table.
How you doing?
Doing real good. We got Andrew Reiner.
What up?
Cool shirt, Reiner.
Hey, thanks. Custom.
Really?
Yeah, Skies of Arcadia.
Guys of Arcadia. Ben Reeves, everybody.
Here I am. How's it going?
Real good. We got a big show. Really, you look at the rundown, it's looking pretty good.
Great show tonight.
It's going to be the best show. We have Dishonored 2 impressions. That is our new cover. We're going to be rolling out a month of content all about Dishonored 2. Reeves and Bertz and I went to France and saw this game in action, so we have lots to talk about there. Then after that, there's a little game that Reiner's been reviewing called Uncharted 4 we can finally talk about.
Yeah, that hunk of junk. We'll get into that.
Big old piece of crap.
Yes.
Then some odds and ends after that. And then at the tail end of the show, we are talking to Duncan Jones, the director of the new Warcraft movie. That's Reiner and I in that conversation. Turns out that guy knows games pretty well.
He is a huge gamer.
Also, David Bowie's son, which we don't bring up.
We don't bring up at all.
Thing,
Yeah,
what? Would you have brought it up?
No.
Okay.
Well, I guess I didn't know. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
It's
crazy.
strange. Yeah, he has a slight British accent. He was involved in Omicron or whatever. He had some connection back to that. But a good chat with him about the direction he's taking that movie.
And games in general.
Yeah, games in general, what it's like to work with Blizzard, what their priorities were, everything like that. So look forward to that interview. But for now, we should probably address what actually came out this week, considering this show is only focusing on the future.
Sure.
Battleborn came out on Tuesday, everybody.
Hey!
It's out!
Huh.
Bertz, did you try playing this thing?
I just got done with the prologue.
What'd you think?
It's prologue.
It's a prologue.
It told me how to jump. It told me how to shoot. There was a weird Del the Funky Homo Sapien animated music video to kick it all off, I think. I don't know if it was actually Del or someone trying to be Del.
Which
Yeah,
character did you play as?
Who did it start me as? The elf lady.
Yeah.
Mika?
Right. Yeah, I played through the
Mika.
prologue also last night. I did not expect a 2D intro to that game. Like, Gearbox is so proud of their intros. Normally, they're pretty impressive. Like, Tales from the Borderlands had a 8-minute intro sequence in every hour-long episode, it felt like. But I didn't expect like a weird 2D style. But then even more confusing beyond that, it's like the cutscenes at the tail end of the prologue were also 2D, but not fully animated. Just
Yeah,
kinda
it was like Hanna-Barbera, G.I. Joe kind of
really weird
art style. And then their game turns on and it looks better. And then you're like, oh, this is what it's going to look like. And then it jumps back.
Yeah. So Matt Miller is reviewing that game for us right now. He doesn't seem too hot on it, but
No. Yeah, that's the early take from him is there's a lot of yelling coming from his desk.
right, like yippee.
No.
Oh, okay.
Miller doesn't really make a lot of noise when he plays games, but he's chirping over there right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he seems a little
Getting really
upset.
frustrated. It's interesting because I feel like Gearbox should have a bit of a fan base at this point. Well, there's a lot of
They do.
lot of
Yeah, I think
fans.
Borderlands is huge.
It doesn't feel like that fan base is getting behind Battleborn yet, or maybe I just don't see it. The groundswell of
I don't know.
enthusiasm beforehand.
There is that fan base, but there's also so many people that are so pissed at Gearbox for every stumble they've had. Like, remember when we did that cover? There were so many comments that were like, "Oh, F you, Randy Pitchford, you con artist." So there's always those folks out there too that are just like waiting for them to fail. And
People
so I'm
upset
curious.
over Alien still.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was a huge part of the cover story. People were so
Duke
mad about
Nukem,
that.
Alien. Yeah.
I'm upset too.
For Aliens.
Brothers in Arms.
Oh, that they haven't brought it back.
Yeah, I love that series. It was cool.
Would you have accepted that weird Inglourious Bastards one?
Sure.
Okay.
I was
Anything will do.
curious. It looked weird.
It looked kind of fun.
Yeah.
I would have played it.
Reiner, I'm curious with your impressions of Battleborn, because remember when they came in for the cover story and we played multiplayer, you were really hot on it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was still kind of gray boxed. It was early in development. 2 years out. Is that when we did it?
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, right?
a while ago, yeah.
But yeah, the idea was sound, and even the fiction I was behind. Like they're battling for the energy of the last star in the universe. And I was like, that is wild. Like that's so far in the future, I can't even comprehend it. And then they told us about all these different species and races that are kind of sending out their warriors to battle for this thing. I was like, all right, hook, line, and sinker. You got me. Borderlands, you guys make great games. And then as it kind of went along, they didn't want to talk about it as like a MOBA, but it kind of was. And there was a lot of confusion. They wanted everyone to start calling it a hero shooter, but everybody's like, that's kind of weird. And from there, it's just been kind of thin ice, right? Like it feels like we're just kind of moving across it very slowly, cautiously. And I have not fired it up yet. I tried to.
Yeah.
But it gave me like character sync issues or something on Xbox One. I couldn't get in for like 2 hours.
Reiner's never-ending problem list with Xbox
seriously,
One
I break
games.
What is
games
going
all the time.
You don't have to play on Xbox One. You're welcome to jump to different things, try them out.
I just finished Uncharted.
There we go. That's a good
Hey.
example. But I hope you try Battleborn's multiplayer because
I'm
you're so
gonna.
hot on it when he was in the office.
Yeah.
and it's like,
No,
it's not
I'm
like
going to
it
see
changed.
that. I'm seeing that through. I'm going to have the full story arc of Reiner's enthusiasm, and we'll see where it goes. Because right now I'm still excited to play it.
All right.
So we'll see if it crescendos and goes downhill from there, or if it stays high. But we'll see.
Yeah, for a game that like theoretically started out as, hey, League of Legends, and we'll turn it into a shooter, it feels really bizarre so far, just a little bit that I've played, about how much they're trying to kind of backdoor some story and structure in there. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago, it still just feels like this detached, obnoxious radio play that's playing in the background of all these missions where it's like, what is happening? What are these jokes?
so
Who are these characters?
Strange, because the fiction sounds so cool.
The fiction does sound really cool.
On a
But
high
like,
level.
Like you said, they didn't really embrace the MOBA community at all. They kind of steered away from that. And then people who don't play MOBAs, I don't think are interested in something that has even a hint of MOBA. So
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know
a
who this is for.
What is
yeah.
that weird like predetermined hatred for MOBAs that a lot of
I
console
don't know.
players have? I don't get it personally. I'm not a big MOBA guy, but I also don't just cast aside a game if MOBA is mentioned. you
Right.
know?
What is the game that's come closest, do you think, that you've gotten into to like a MOBA style format?
Real-time strategy games when I was a
Okay.
kid, probably.
All right, that'll work. So we should talk about something we do know a lot about. Dishonored 2. So yeah, myself, Reeves, Bertz, we flew out to Lyon, France. That's like the Arcane studio over there in France. They're leading development on this thing. And we got to see a lot of the game in action. Bertz, you just want to kind of like set the scene for what we saw, what was going on over there?
Well, yeah, we first got that tease, at E3 last year. There was the trailer that didn't look like there was any gameplay in it at all. But we learned that Emily Caldwin, who was the princess that you saved, and I guess depending on how you played, maybe put back on the throne of Dunwall at the end of the first game. It's 15 years advanced, and she's learned some of the tricks of the trade from her father, Corvo Otana, who we played as in the first game.
Sure.
So it's an interesting idea to kind of split your game in two like they're doing. It's actually the same game whether you play as Emily or Corvo.
Same overall structure.
Yeah, the first mission you do play as Emily, but after that first mission in Dunwall where the coup happens, I'm presuming, then you have a choice. Are you going to play as Corvo or as Emily?
And as developers put it, I think Harvey at a certain point said, yeah, we're throwing a lot of work away here. Like if people just play one, they're going to miss out on all these different set of abilities because they don't just have one-for-one abilities.
No,
Emily
not
has
at
her
all. They
own
have
trees.
completely different, even like down to the weapons. They have the same 3 weapons as, the previous game. You get the crossbow, the gun, and the sword, but they go in different directions based on like what master craftsmanship choice you make with that.
Yeah.
So they have different weapon end games. They have totally different power sets.
So
It's interesting because there's these like bloodfly swarm creatures, and like we saw the Corvo demo where you could like possess those and then jump from that to a rat, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was thinking, oh well, actually, I was thinking about playing as Emily. So if I play that game as Emily, I won't be able to do that. So I guess I'll have to play twice, which is cool for super fans, but it's just interesting to like. It's going to be a completely, like you said, completely different experience, even though the levels are essentially the same.
Yeah, and if you think about the first game, you could also play essentially 2 different ways, right? You could play totally stealth, or you could play just like gonzo bloodletting, you've seen the YouTube videos. There's some phenomenal players that are just racking up kill counts at a ridiculous rate.
And so now in theory, you kind of have 4 different playthroughs if you want to play high chaos,
almost
low
like
chaos.
there's so many different permutations, I guess, for this game now. But we know gamers, like you see the telemetry data that you get back from a lot of these games, and most people don't even finish one playthrough. So it's going to be really interesting to see like where's the breakdown, who's going to play as Corvo, who's going to play as Emily, and then how many people actually dip in for a second go.
Yeah, there's more enthusiasm than I thought when we launched the cover for people being like, oh my god, I can't wait to play Corvo, he's like my favorite character. It's like, Corvo?
really?
He seems fine. Are you that fond of Corvo, or are you going to go straight for Emily?
I'm going to go with Emily because there's new powers, but I liked Corvo. Corvo was a cipher kind
awesome.
of.
Right.
Like he didn't have a voice, so like a lot of people felt that he didn't have a personality in the first game. But like you imbue your own personality as you're playing through a game, and I really like the character. He looks like a badass. His powers are awesome.
Yeah, it's mostly his look, I think.
Yeah.
He looks really cool, and I think the powers, it's a good combo.
And I like that story. Like, who is this Lord Protector who is like basically the bodyguard for the Empress? And he shacks up with her, and the princess is his daughter.
Right.
Like there's a cool backstory that I want to know about.
What do you think about having voice protagonists this time around?
I like
Dishonored
it.
2? Yeah,
I do like it. I'm that's always been one of my criticisms of Zelda is I really, not, obviously I don't want cartoon Link voice, but I think you can do a lot more with a voice character.
yeah. I wonder if some people in the community kind of like the silent protagonist though. Like it's not
Nobody likes
grating.
silent protagonists.
Really? I think some people
The
do.
whole thing of like we want the player to have their own voice in this. And what is the player saying? Like, die! Oh, you're cheating.
You understand it's not a literal thing where the players don't have to scream out and like
I know,
role
but
play
I mean,
as
it's
the
like,
character.
Nobody's role playing their damn characters.
But still, it can take you out of it. I totally get it. Like I remember, my favorite is the South Park interview we did with Trey Parker. I'll always think to him because he was talking about how much he hates it in RPGs when the main characters talk. Because he's like, it's always just some douchebag. Like somebody tells him about this horrible situation, then you have to listen to this idiot go, what am I gonna do? It's like, I wouldn't
just
say
bad
that.
writing.
Well, yeah, it could be. But like, it's never too in your face with Dishonored 2. But there's just little throwaway lines, like objects will kind of trigger a little piece of dialogue about like, oh, look at this item over here. This reminds me of this whole thing.
And they cast Corvo so well, like so many
Sure.
people were pissed when the new Thief came out and Stephen Russell wasn't voicing Garrett. And they're like, well, we'll take him.
I guess, yeah, we'll just get him.
Yes, it's the old star thief. And then clearly a lot of people on the Dishonored team were a fan of Daredevil. We have Rosario Dawson his thing. Then we have, what's his name?
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Thank you. As
Kingpin.
the villain.
Wilson
Yes,
Fisk.
there we go, Mr. Fisk.
Kingpin's in the game.
So he plays the Duke.
The Duke of Serkonos, who is set up from what we've seen to be the evil villain.
You think he's the real big bad? Is it just like a
I don't
temporary
know.
stop?
I don't know.
Okay.
They throw curveballs in their storytelling, and there might be something more at play. We know there's a civil war kind of brewing between the Empire of the Isles, with the North and the South. Dunwell's kind of in the middle of that. So,
One big question I have for you, and people who watched the trailer from E3 probably have the same question, is Corvo's Mask, there was like a lot of steampunk in that.
Yeah.
And there was light steampunk throughout the world. This one looks like they're just going all in with like those Clockwork Knights and stuff like that.
Yeah, that trailer in particular is very steampunky because there's the whole Clockwork Mansion, which is a playable level in the game.
yeah, we saw some early demos of it. That thing looks insane.
It looks absurd. So like as the walls are moving, they even mentioned that like, you can slip behind the walls and find like whole new secret areas. So that trailer, like the second half of it, is super steampunky. And the Clockwork Knights, Clockwork Soldiers, I think they're called, they are going to be throughout the game. They're kind of their equivalent of tall boys this time around. And they have faces on the back of their heads, which you can see if you look carefully at that trailer. So they're really effed up.
In the trailer, I think there was ceramic, right? And so
Yeah, they changed
final
it
game,
into
there
wood.
Yeah.
Okay. But the actual world itself and this new city doesn't strike you as...
It feels grounded.
Yeah,
More
it does.
like the original game then?
Yeah, it definitely feels like, it's more like a tropical or Mediterranean setting, like a combo of the
Yeah.
two, because the island itself is really heavily forested and there's a lot of mountainous terrain, but then the city's kind of this crescent on the bay. And it really kind of strikes you like a Barcelona or, Greece, kind of one of those cities.
It's got interesting fantastical elements to it, though, like dropped in there, even though it does feel grounded in like a real world with its own like culture and history and art to it, which is nice. But then there's like this giant mountain on the side of the city, and it's got a cleft in the side, and like this wind blows through it and kicks up dust all over the whole city. And so periodically, the demo we saw, you would run across these like dust storms.
Yeah,
which would,
like
kick up
the
in
people
middle
that
of
live
nowhere.
there like have created these wind tunnels kind of. They've tried to redirect it and use it as energy.
Yeah, which is cool that they think that far into like when they're building the world. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
how would the people react when like this windstorm happens? Like maybe they'd try to harness it. So
Go inside. If I was writing, it'd be like, they all went inside.
The
Played video
No,
games.
just think of 2016 with Gears of War 4's wind flares, and now Dishonored 2 in this one section of the area, at least the Dust District specifically, where it's like, oh yeah, wind's going to kick up every once in a while, and then guards can't see. Yada
the
yada
year
yada.
of breaking wind.
That's exactly what we have in mind. So that was actually, there's a lot to talk about with this game and a lot to be excited about. The city, I wasn't fully sold on. I think Dunwall is such a striking design, and yeah, the city, it's cool. They're emphasizing like vertical space a lot more, but I don't know if it really had that like gut punch of just wow looking around.
Well,
that
I mean,
Dunwall
we
had
couldn't
for
see
me.
much of it. Like this is one particular district we saw, the Dust District, which used to be kind of a blue collar working town area by the mines. And the Duke of Serkonos is like amped up like productivity, like double capacity. So like these silver mines are blowing all this silver dust into the people's lives, and they're basically like abandoning this district. So this is one of those empty space kind of feeling areas.
Gotcha.
But Harvey Smith was really one of the co-directors. He was really adamant that not all the levels are going to look like this or feel like this or be like this.
There's going to be a lot more life in the streets compared to Dunwall. Things are a little bit more
Dunwall
upbeat.
was architecture-wise very cool looking, very striking, but it was a dump because
Because of the rat
the plague. Yeah, there was
Yeah,
a plague
yeah.
wiping everybody out. They're painting the walls just flat white.
Yeah.
So it looked awful at times. And
Well-
that's what they wanted you to take away from it.
You'll get to see a next-gen awful because the beginning and the ending of Dishonored 2 take place in Dunwall.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to be nice to revisit that. So the hardcore fans will get to see what next-gen Dunwall looks like.
Although they did say that the rat plague's over, so there's not like people dying in the streets
No,
all
it's
over
the
the place.
fly plague.
It's-
Yeah, and they've
Blood fly
like the
plague.
blood, flood district has been repaired, and it's a
Yeah.
financial center now.
under
Like, there's-
Emily's rule, like things got a lot better. So it'll be like
There's a Costco
better
over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Whole Foods.
Yeah. A couple of Ruby Tuesdays.
Do you guys think that you're only going to be going to those two places? Just Karnaca and Dunwall?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was concept art for Tivia, that northern continent. I remember seeing continent, but
I think it'd be. I mean, and then another point to make actually is you have a hub now, which is
It is a
ship.
yeah.
So theoretically, that hub could travel around the world. So we don't know for sure, but that was an interesting theory that I thought of too. Is like, I wonder if there's going to be like a kind of James Bond, like travel around the world, like.
We certainly
hunt
didn't get
down
any
the
hint
bad
of
guys.
that, but yeah, your
No,
hub
no.
is a ship this time around.
Yeah.
People were really curious, like how the whole thing's structured. If it's going to be similar to one, you want to speak a little bit to that, Bertz, like the mission structure and whatnot?
Yeah, so in Dishonored, you always went back to the pub, right?
And you had your
between
canoe.
every mission, and and you could hang out with the different characters that were in the Resistance, and that's where you would interact with Emily. And when you figure out like, oh, my playthrough's really making this girl into a crazy person. She's drawing like murderous pictures with black crayons. The second game, they're putting you into a ship called the Dreadful Whale, which is like this old smuggler's vessel. It kind of looks like it's really kind of rusted and really creaky, makes a lot of noise when you're in there. But that's going to be your hub here. Sokolov, the inventor, is with you for the ride this time, and you can interact with him, the ship captain, and other characters will come in and out of that space as the missions progress.
It seems cool.
Yeah.
Seems
That
like
sounds
a cool
awesome.
space.
Yeah,
There's-
it sounds very interesting.
Yeah. So the Reeves kind of mentioned it briefly when we first started talking about it, just about the idea of Corvo going inside the bloodfly, then going to the rat, yada yada yada. That was the big takeaway from seeing this gameplay. Is just you needed to watch this thing in slow motion because there's so many crazy abilities, and those gameplay demos just like, wait, what just happened? Like there's so much opportunity, and the Dinga Bakaba, the lead designer who's playing it, he has played it so much that he's just flying all over the place. It basically looked like one of those pro videos on YouTube where it's like, hold on a second, let's really go beat by beat and try to break down these new powers.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me like the most exciting new power is on Emily's side, at least that we've seen so far, and it's the domino.
Oh yeah, the domino effect. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems ridiculously overpowered, but you can eventually get it to the point where you can link characters together, and then one character's state will impact the other.
Yeah, up to 4 characters, I think they said.
Okay.
So you can
Are you
grab.
gonna need like flow charts, keep track of like all these people moving around?
It could be complicated. It really seems like
It's awesome.
It seems awesome though. So like, do you want to talk about the setup that you saw with the like firing range?
Oh yeah, so the Abbey of the Everyman were trying to execute this guy, and they're listing off all his mistakes he's made and living his life the wrong way. And they walked up and they dominoed like 3 of the soldiers around and combined it with the guy who was going to get killed. So the bullet was theoretically going to go like, if he dies, everybody else dies. But the guy that was firing the weapon had a helmet on, and the game was smart enough to go, well, the helmet's going to protect him.
Yeah, so he didn't
So it
get
didn't work, but theoretically you could do stuff like that. Or another one of Emily's powers is doppelganger. You create like a facsimile of yourself, put it in the world, and you can link like 4 players to her and just go
And kill her, kill your little
kill your
doppelganger.
doppelganger,
Yeah.
and they all go.
Yeah, so it starts
That's
out,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the doppelganger just starts out and like guards will see it and chase after her, and she'll run away, and then they'll forget that you're there because they don't know you exist, obviously. But Dinga Bakaba at a certain point mentioned that you can even like put like a spring razor wire on the doppelganger's back, and then she'll go running, and then guards will chase after her, and if they ever catch up with her, then of course they'll explode. So there's just a million little fun twists that you can do, and that's another big takeaway from the visit is like it's so nice to go to a studio and realize these guys really get what made their game special, just having this crazy playground of abilities and opportunities, and it very much feels like they're just quadrupling down on the insane abilities and being as creative as possible in that sandbox.
And that's Arcane Studios
Lyon.
in Lyon.
Yeah.
This game has to be
And the first one was made in Austin, though, right?
Well, it was made by both studios.
Both, okay.
And
Right.
then
Yeah.
And then they just shifted most of it over to
Right.
Leon for
when we
Leon's
visited
the primary studio. And
when we
who knows
visited
what
Au-
Austin's doing.
Yeah, when we visited Austin for that first cover story, like it was super, super small. It was very much like the tip of the iceberg, and then a lot of the development was still taking place in Lyon. So
Gotcha.
now it's just Harvey Smith, the creative director, moved over there, and he's heading up production for Dishonored 2 in Lyon. Yeah, do you guys have any other abilities that really stood out for you?
There was a one, oh, now I'm forgetting it. The Mesmerize one. Did you guys ever talk
Yeah.
about that one? Where it's like guys are, it's kind of a stealth ability, but like you plant this like crazy crystal thing and like guys are just drawn to it and they're basically mesmerized by it.
And it
you
gets
can-
really creepy too because they're just in awe of this thing. And the way Harvey described it, I loved, where he said that it has unspeakable horrors experiencing that, but they all kind of like it. So it's just like this weird vibe when they're under
And
this trance.
you can just walk right by them and they won't notice you, or you could like stab them in the neck and like kill them while they're just like looking at this thing. And you can combine that with the domino. So like you link 4 dudes and then you link one of those guys to like 4 more dudes. So you could have like 8 guys just totally mesmerized by the same.
do you think you have enough mana for that, or what? I forget what they call it.
I don't know. It was interesting watching them play around with the powers, and you can tell that they haven't figured out all the combinations yet too. Because while we were doing the demo, he was like, "Actually, I wonder if this would work." And he would try something out, and it would work, and it was like, "Oh, that's crazy!" And like they were surprising themselves even while we were playing the game, which was cool to see.
It was fun. Oh, go ahead.
One of the cool things that you mentioned, like you can use that ability as a stealth tool or as a tool to just murder a bunch of guys when they're not paying attention. That they really doubled down on that kind of concept. One of the criticisms from the first game was, well, it's really fun to play as this crazy knife-wielding monster, but when I'm playing stealth, I feel like I only have a couple abilities that I'm really using. So they've created skill trees kind of that go in more directions for all the abilities this time, and a lot of them can be manipulated to use in a stealth practice.
Yeah. So hopefully, stealth is more fun to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did we talk about Far Reach at all?
No.
Because that was the other one that you saw in the demo that they did last year, where she's kind of like using her smoke-like powers to reach out, and then kind of like it looks like she's teleporting, but she's really just sort of like moving there really fast. So if guys see her,
It's more like a hand that can pick up things,
Yeah,
but this is kind of
kinda.
grabbing and pulling
Mr.
her towards
Fantastic
it.
hand or something.
Yeah, sure, something like that.
But she
smoke,
can,
though, right? It's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
But she can use that to like grab other things, like things out of the air, or grab enemies and like pull them to her as well. So it's not just a one way.
Right.
Yeah, and those are all unlocks that you can eventually
Right.
get to, I
Yeah.
believe.
It was interesting going back before the trip and researching Dishonored 1 again. First of all, being reminded, like, it's a really cool game.
Yeah,
In
it's
retrospect,
awesome. So
especially, it stands out so much.
That was my game of the year that year.
Yeah, I remember you were really
it was
in love
a
with
good
it.
year, but that was my favorite.
It was an amazing year.
Was
but
that Mass Effect 2 that year, I think?
No, that was XCOM.
Oh, XCOM.
Mass Effect 3, maybe?
Mass Effect 3.
2012?
Yep.
Yeah.
Journey
it was one of those Mass
was that year. There's some other huge ones. But anyways, looking back at our coverage, we did like a spoiled, and we also talked about like, oh, why it's one of our favorite games of the year. And in both those videos that we shot, everyone's like, I bet the Outsider's going to be the big villain in Dishonored 2. That's like everyone's prediction is like, oh, that Outsider. Do you want to just explain what we saw from the Outsider in Dishonored 2 so far?
Yeah, well, I actually talked to Harvey a little bit about that character because, like one of the cool things about the game was the mystery of like, he's kind of the G-Man for, like the Half-Life G-Man in this world. And a lot of people thought he was a Loki-esque trickster, right? And Harvey was like, no, a lot of people are misinterpreting that. This guy's been trapped in this void for a long time. And he's giving people these powers thinking they're going to do good things, and they're constantly surprising him by what they do. So they've kind of peeled away some of that trickster kind of vibe, I guess.
Right. Okay.
But we're going to spend more time in the void with him this time. They've done a lot of work, building up that part of the game. They recast the character. It's no longer Billy Lush. It's Robin Lloyd Taylor from Gotham.
Yeah, he's the Penguin, which I don't
Penguin,
watch
yeah.
that show, but everybody says that he's like the highlight of that show.
It's pretty creepy.
He's probably the
Okay.
best part of the show, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to learn some new things, Harvey said, but there's also still going to be stuff that you're just like, what's going on?
Right. Also, related to that a little bit, is interesting to hear them decide like which, because there's so many options in the first Dishonored, what is canon going into this one? And apparently the canon version of the first one is Sparing Dodd. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well,
how that works?
They felt like the most of the interesting choices were the non-lethal ones. So obviously Emily lives. You know, Dodd is going to live, who was the guy who killed Jessamine in the first game, and Corvo like spares the man who killed his love interest. You know, like some interesting dynamics at play there. So that's kind of where they're going with this game, is that the non-lethal decisions that you made in that first game is what's going to be canon.
Whichever one was more interesting, I guess,
Yeah.
on a storytelling perspective, which is probably the way to go. One other thing before we move on, some of the design in this game, we talked about, you know, steampunky nature and whatnot. Some of the designs are so cool. Like during the demo, there's a moment where one of the guys at Bethesda, who's at the studio as well, he just started laughing when he saw this design because it's so cool. But there is a typewriter in Dishonored 2. Do you remember this typewriter? It's super tall looking. It's just like this quick thing in the demo that just ran by, but it looks so awesome. Or there's this one character, Kryn Jindosh, I guess is his name.
Kieran Jindosh, yeah.
There we go. Where he has a pipe like built into his hand.
Oh,
so he's
yeah.
like smoking a pipe that's like part of his hand
Like
itself.
his thumb or something. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
take
it's
the
built out of
pinky off or
whalebone.
something.
There we go. Like the stylized crazy aspects of Dishonored 1. I'm very happy to see come back.
That's
in
a
this.
crazy idea to me, and I'm almost surprised that some pirate somewhere hasn't done that, like made a pipe out of a fake hand. I don't know, don't you think?
Why would a pirate do
It's like
that?
a real world pirate? Or like, what do you-
Yeah.
I don't know, like some dude who lost his hand. Why wouldn't you make something functional out of it?
just have a big pipe for a hand?
Yes,
Is that what you do if you lost your hand?
I think it's a cool idea.
like, how can I use this to a smoking advantage?
I would make an Iron Man hand.
I could put a hook on here to open doors and do practical things, or I could smoke it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll smoke it.
There we go.
Pirate would really care about smoking. But I'm curious about this typewriter because I remember. How would you describe it?
I
Because
would
hey, it's a
describe it-
crazy looking typewriter.
It's like tall and spiky and just exaggerated. Imagine you take a cool looking steampunky typewriter and then stretch it out vertically and kind of fan it out at the top. Basically, it's the Game of Thrones throne turned into a typewriter.
typewriter.
That's how I vaguely remember this thing.
But you're right, the art is just phenomenal in this game, and we got to meet some of the artists like Sergei Kolosov, I believe is his name, who did the covers for us.
Yeah, Sebastian
And
Maton.
Sebastian
who's the
Maton, who's the art
director.
director. Like, you know, people were worried that Victor Antonov not working as closely with the team this time. The art might take a hit. I seriously
But he's
don't
the
think.
overlord
Yeah,
overseeing
he's
all
the creative
studios,
director,
right? So-
basically.
And
For
Sebastian
all.
was the guy on the first one anyway, so he's
He was
still,
the art director on
Yeah,
the first one
He's
anyway.
still here, so like the art vision is still the same in a
Right.
lot of ways.
We
And
have
it was
a-
interesting because I was talking to him and he was saying that, you know, usually you see concept art for a game and it's like wildly different than what the game actually looks like. But their vision or what they're trying to do is create this really cool art and then create this game that actually kind of looks like this
Yeah,
concept
it's very
art piece.
painterly. Yeah,
So-
and that's why they had to build their own engine, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing. This is called the Void Engine, so they had to basically recreate the way that Dishonored 1 felt going into this thing.
Yeah, and they're using like a kernel, I guess, like 25% or something like that of the id Tech is still there. That's what they use as their platform, but they've built everything on top of it.
Okay, gotcha.
So-
Yeah, it's really interesting just going on the first Dishonored cover story trip back in 2011, when so much of that trip was spent with the guys at Arcane explaining, like, you know, we kind of like this immersive first-person genre, really like this type of thing. And now this time around, just to see them be like, yeah, you know, the cool parts of Dishonored 1, it's just more of that. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds great. I think I'm on board. But we have interviews with the art director, blowouts of the powers, more like character profiles and whatnot for Corvo and Emily coming up on the site at
Profile on the Dust District even. which
Well, there we
which
go.
talked about.
It's GameInformer.com/Dishonored2. So stay tuned throughout the month to learn a lot more than we just said about Dishonored 2.
And if you haven't played the game yet, check out the new definitive edition that they released on Xbox One and PS4. right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You don't have to go back, hook up your old systems. Like it's on the new machines.
Yeah.
With all the DLC,
Yeah.
which was actually really good.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people like that a lot. Cool. All right. The game's coming out November 11th.
November 11th, just
There we
like
go.
Skyrim style.
The exact
Skyrim
same
day.
Skyrim date. Of course, it's Bethesda's lucky date they're hoping.
And they're still doing 11-11-11.
Yeah, that's right. Yep,
Let's just
constantly.
keep running with it. They don't want to get rid of all that marketing material.
Yeah. All right, that's Dishonored 2.
Sounds great.
Let's move on to something that's coming out next week.
yes.
Uncharted 4, Reiner.
Yeah, Thief's End.
I have not talked to you about this.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, you mocked me in the office like, don't you come walking around here talking about how great this game is that you're playing. And I was like, well, you're going to have to look at my review.
I
have to talk to me
maybe
about the
won't have to.
podcast.
I haven't seen your review. I don't know how this thing's going to end up. But Joe was commenting on the fact that when you are reviewing a good game or like a high profile game, you do like to wander in the office and you do a lot of like Oh man, you would not believe it.
I just turned into
guys.
Kramer from Seinfeld.
It's true. That's exactly what it's like. Except
come
with
in,
more finger snaps.
looking for bread.
And
Hey.
just wait for people to go like, please tell us, Lord Reiner, tell us about this game.
No.
So now is your chance, Lord Reiner. Tell us about this game.
So Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is the last Naughty Dog developed Uncharted game, the
Okay.
final adventure for
Very
Nathan Drake.
curious about
They've been
that part.
very upfront about that the whole time.
Uh-huh.
So that, just knowing that going into it, and the fact that the game does feel like closure all the way through, everything kind of has this tone to it. The narrative is very much like a ticking time bomb. Like you're just kind of thinking the whole time, like, what's going to happen? Is something crazy going to happen? When is the twist coming? You know, what's the big thing that's going to happen? And that just adds an immediate sense of tension to this whole narrative, which already is just kind of crazy on its own.
I never thought about that, but I am excited about that because it's always a bummer to watch a show and be like, well, they're not going to do anything interesting with these characters because they just have to keep this going forever. But when you know, like, it's the last season, basically it's like last season of Game of Thrones, even more so than now, everything's game on. It's going to get insane. And it has that tension of anything could happen.
And I was like, well, you know, you got Indiana Jones out there running around at 73 years old, you know, finding crystal skulls and crazy MacGuffins that don't make any sense. It's nice to see a developer go, you know, it's time. We've spent a lot of time with this character. We've done a lot of stuff, you know, with him and found all these things. Let's wrap up this arc. Let's have it have a very distinct beginning, middle, and end. And they deliver that. Like,
So there's
they
no
have,
Shia LaBeouf in this one?
there isn't. There is it has a nice arc to it from start to finish. Obviously, some of the stuff doesn't, you know, like the treasure hunt doesn't connect in any way. You know, he's going after Captain Avery's treasure this time.
Yeah,
It's
whatever.
not Sir Francis Drake, you know, stuff like that. This is a very new hunt for him. It has, you know, starts in Uncharted 4, it ends in Uncharted 4.
Anatolia, what's the crazy city called?
Libertalia.
Libertalia. Okay.
Do you feel like you get a sense that Nate has aged quite a bit? Like, does he ever like say I'm getting too old for this, or just like kind of like
Please tell me he does.
Yeah, I mean,
just a sense that like, oh, I'm not as good at this as I used to be. Like
you
my
see that
ankles
he
hurt.
has transitioned from being kind of this crazy out of control treasure hunter to being a loving husband and wanting to adapt to this different life for his wife, Elena, who's a journalist, photojournalist, all that still. But you know, that famous painting you saw in the trailers that they switched, that was from Assassin's Creed.
Right.
There's a moment where he's staring at that and he just kind of zones out and he's lost. And Elena's trying to talk to him and he's very much still in that world.
This still feels a lot like Uncharted 3 for me. You know, talking about the closure of Uncharted 4, it feels like also they were going for closure with Uncharted 3 and wrapping up that story and the tension between Elena wanting to stay at home, yada, yada, yada. And like, oh, is this marriage going to work out? It doesn't feel like a retread of those similar themes.
No, not at all. And the big thing, the big hook is Sam, his brother, who you believe is dead, is back.
Well, you don't
And,
believe.
He's
I've always believed that.
he's back and you need to help him. Like, and you need to.
He needs a murderer.
Oh man, there's so much murder in this game. But Nathan needs to help him, and that means betraying this whole new life that he has to go out and help Sam. I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah,
but
no
that's just kind of the
spoilers here.
general build up.
I want to know how Sam is as a character.
Sam's great.
Twisted, weird.
So Nolan North again is Nathan Drake, and then Troy Baker, the great Troy Baker, is Sam Drake, and wow, they both do a great job. The chemistry they have is fantastic.
What if they did?
It is such a great script.
It's just assumed they're going to do a good job.
This is like Pacino and De Niro, you know, doing.
I mean, I don't know how much you hang on them or how much is like Naughty Dog and the writers, Josh and Neil, but it is just a fun script. It has a lot of heart, just a ton of emotion to it. Very much a blending and amalgamation of Uncharted and The Last of Us in terms of the emotional resonance it has and the moments you have in the world with the character where you're trying to figure things out and have an understanding, and just those little breaks from the action where they're just kind of talking and you're getting to know them a little better. And then just in gameplay too, you know, much like Ellie from Last of Us, Sam is out there helping you do things like he can grab onto enemies. You go up and punch them, or if he's holding them, you can shoot him in the heart, just put him down right there. And he's like, whoa, you know.
How's the gunplay in general? Because I remember that's always been a critique of the Uncharted series. And
Yeah,
on the
that's
Uncharted,
my least favorite, or probably second least
there we
favorite.
go. I remember like on the cover story trip asking like the lead gameplay designer, like, what are you guys doing to address gunplay issues? And he's like, well, it's the same gunplay you've always loved from the Uncharted series. And
Right.
like, okay, that's not making me feel any better.
So
not
it
that
is
it's terrible, but
it's more pop and shoot. They've added more in the kind of combat arenas. It's not just like wooden crates set up everywhere. There's more verticality to it. So there'll be like cliffs you could scale, ropes you could swing, drop down on enemies. So there's more variety in your actions within the combat. But the core gunplay is very much the same, where it's you got your two weapons, pop and shoot. It still feels a little loose in my opinion. I know you can kind of adjust that if you want.
Headshots, still you need a couple of them to take a guy down.
No, headshots usually drop them. It depends on if a heavy's coming in with a helmet and you got to knock the helmet off, and then you can. If they have like red bandanas on where it's just like hit zone, and you shoot them there and then you put them down. But it's feels more like Uncharted, and that's my kind of the one big complaint I have, and it's not really a complaint, is this feels like the fourth time through Uncharted, like in terms of the platforming, Nathan leaping and then he lands on a rickety bridge. Yeah, and then it breaks. You're like, the first time in Uncharted, you're like, whoa, that bridge broke. What do I got to do? I got to hit the button to hang on. And now you're just like, yeah, okay. And it doesn't have.
I saw that coming.
Yeah, and I mean, the world is made of balsa wood and paper mache, right? Everything's falling apart. It looks stunning. Like, it is the best looking game I've seen. Those artists at Naughty Dog. Ever. It is freaking crazy.
Bury the lead here, Reiner. All right.
Yeah, it is absolutely nuts how much detail's in this. Little things like when Nathan gets worked up, like veins pop out, of his arm. Otherwise, if he's just standing around, they kind of go back.
Well, that's what makes for a fun game. Yeah.
Wrinkles on his face, just if he's in the water, his hair changes. From being wet and dry. Little details like that, but then the big, huge set piece moments of you go into a new zone and it's just like, oh my God, look at the detail here. Look how stunning this looks. And it's not just they're going for realism, but it's just kind of that I've never seen this place in my life before, yet it looks familiar. It has like that kind of stunning realism to it.
How are the set pieces in this one? Because I mean, Uncharted 2 had that awesome train sequence. There's such like great stuff from the previous entries, but I haven't seen anything from 4 yet.
Yeah, there's
really blown
nothing that touches the train falling off the cliff in Uncharted 2, the cargo plane from 3, or even the capsizing boat with the water filling from 3. Nothing that touches those. You have seen the E3 demo they did with the riding the bike with Sam, and there's just crazy.
Yeah, for sure. That's the most impressive thing I've seen so far.
But I don't think since you have so much control of that, and it's more in an open world setting. That's another point to get to here in a little bit. Is it doesn't feel as cinematic. It feels more kind of like a gameplay thing. It doesn't have that kind of big feel to it. I would say the game as a whole has more big moments that happen, but they're kind of smaller things. There isn't that one moment you go, oh my God, did you see the train? There's nothing in this game that'll be like, there's that one. It's just a lot of little things in there.
But
they
emotionally,
have big payoffs.
Let's say emotionally, are there train moments, something of that scale, where it's like people are going to be talking about this thing?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the story. Andy Mack, who's one of the harshest critics in terms of narrative of anything, he doesn't watch movies anymore because he thinks they're dumb or something. But he was texting me a lot about the story, like, holy crap,
interesting.
This is good. And it's very much, I mean, the writer of the Last of Us. It does have a feel of Last of Us. They're not mimicking or copying The Last of Us, but there is a lot of that same drama and real care given to making these characters tick on screen and making you want to know more about them or question what they're doing.
Just giving them some weight.
So obviously, Amy Hennig, who wrote the last 3, is not here.
Right.
How does it feel different? Does it feel different?
It does. Yeah. Like I said, I think it feels like The Last of Us is kind of tied with it a little bit, where you do see some of that direction, some of that, I can't go into the narrative arcs that they're going for, but some of those
loses
hooks.
the lightheartedness maybe that
There's
game
plenty of
traded
that
in.
while they're exploring, and the banter's pretty good. Like, Nathan is still Nathan. He's firing off one-liners all the time. Even like as he's about to die, he says something funny. There's stuff like that that's going on. Like you said, the no thing.
A lot of that.
That's classic, but there's a lot of stuff like that. But it still feels like an Uncharted at heart. And the big thing that I was really surprised with was Marco Polo's. Was that Uncharted 2 where you're going after Marco Polo's lost fleet? And that was kind of a really kind of fun arc that you were following. but then it gave way to like really weird magical tree stuff and
That's always
science and
that's
mystery.
my
and-
least favorite.
I
thing
really
about
want to
the
know
games.
how supernatural this thing gets.
So this game, the treasure hunt is awesome, and one of the best characters in the game is Captain Avery, who is dead, and you only learn about through pieces of paper and riddles and notes and what he's done in the world. You get to see what he's done and how the great lengths he's gone to protect his treasure and what that did to him. Getting this treasure, what that did to this guy.
I'm guessing it has some parallels to what it could possibly do to the Drake brothers.
No.
Oh, okay, never
What are we
mind.
doing here? But it
What are you doing?
it is very much just a great kind of in the vein of the Indiana Jones is like, I want to see what that is. I want to see what that thing does.
But the final boss isn't a ghost version of Avery flying around the room?
no, this is a very grounded story.
More grounded
I'll
than
say
the
that.
previous three.
Oh yeah, way more grounded than
I actually
kind of
like that. I
too.
don't know if I was totally in love with like. There was always that like last tenth of the game that like, oh, we're gonna turn it on its head, and now there's something weird and mystical going
Yep,
on.
that always bummed me out.
Was there anything that really surprised you going into this that you didn't expect based on what we know about it?
Yeah, there's a lot, and that's all I can really say to that. Is
Okay.
there's some really cool places you go, and the puzzles are really good. Like the actual environment puzzles, none of them are like repeated. There's a lot of bad block puzzles. I'll say that much. Like not bad, but like really archaic in design box puzzles where you got to push them to get up onto ledges.
Crazy.
I don't know what they were doing with that. That felt like almost like a throwback to yesteryear. Like, hey, remember these? But they just kept doing them.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a lot of surprises in the narrative, a lot of surprises in the environments and kind of what you end up doing. And it's all the artistry and all of it is just outstanding. Like every environment you go in, I texted Andy, I was like, I can't believe how many art assets they created in this game. Like it just seems like there must have been a million artists making a million things for this.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know how much this game cost. If there's a chance it could be profitable, it's just a gargantuan effort by Naughty Dog, and they pulled it off. I think it's the best Uncharted yet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was gonna ask you, yeah.
The narrative really sells it, but that place in time, like when Uncharted 2 came out and things were blowing up for the first time, and you're like, this is crazy. That is lost. That magic's gone.
Okay.
So it is not as mind blowing as it was back in the day, but it is the best of that series, but it is still ringing that same bell. It's still Uncharted over and over and over.
Come
So
and get some.
beforehand, what was your ranking of the Uncharted series? Like, what was your number one Uncharted
2.
game before this?
So in 2, 3, 1.
Hands down. 2, yeah, probably 2, 3,
2, 3,
1.
2, 3
definitely.
Golden Abyss 1.
1 and 3 I had some issues with, but
Okay.
yeah, 2 was, I just thought was just from start to finish, starting with that train, I was like, wow, this game is ridiculously good.
Yeah. So please compare the emotional weight and the emotional gravitas in the campaign versus please tell me the dumbest thing that you saw happen in the multiplayer mode.
In Uncharted's multiplayer,
Yeah.
they have mystical stuff going on like you wouldn't believe. The multiplayer is really fun, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
But you're running around and all of a sudden it's like someone resurrects this big demon tower or something that's shooting out like blue and red spirits depending on what
All
team
right.
it is.
Love it.
And they're just like seeking out enemies and killing them, like picking away at their health. And I'm like, that's weird. And then there's like another woman darting around that's like on fire. Like she's like a speedy Flash with fire.
Okay. And then I saw a gif of like Nathan Drake like making it rain with a bunch of dollar bills
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
probably a GIF, yeah. But there's unlockable. There's a lot of unlockables. So there's good loops in the leveling and the rewards that you get, that you go into a shop, buy a pack, basically a pack of cards, and you get different stuff. So my Nathan's wearing like 90s Ray-Bans. He just looks like a complete douchebag.
My Nathan TM.
He looks like a Far Cry protagonist.
Yeah, he just looks terrible. But so that's kind of fun. The core combat is using the same mechanics from single player. So
Can
that
you swing
cool
around a
grapple,
lot?
yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
It was funny. I was in an environment or in a multiplayer match, and I'm on the rope. I'm like, cool, there's a guy down there. I'm going to smash him. I smashed down his head, and it was, I don't want to give out the name, but it was Dan Reichert. So I immediately took out my cell phone. I was like, hey, Dan, how you doing? He's like, nope, don't see you here.
So do you think it's going to have a similar impact of like Last of Us in terms of multiplayer mode, where everybody's obsessed with the campaign and the story, but then every once in a while people are like, by the way, that multiplayer mode's super fun. People don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, the Uncharted 2 and 3, I think,
There's
multiplayer
that
games,
fan base, yeah.
They had a pretty big fan base, and I would say this is a pretty nice little evolution from those games I
Okay.
played. So single player is where you want to start and hang your hat like that. is amazing. Whereas Call of Duty is kind of the other way, right? Like a lot of people play multiplayer first and then go play the single player first. And then, I mean, multiplayer is not a bad avenue of play. Like you have it, check it out. You might really dig it.
You've been describing a 10 out of 10 game.
A 9.5 out of 10.
Okay. Was there anything that held you back?
Yeah, I think just like I said, the magic of most of the gameplay of the platforming and the gunplay just not kind of feeling like the fourth time through.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that really kind of hurts it a little bit. And they didn't find new ways to really kind of elevate that to those same levels. But again, it's fun. It's really fun, and they did a really good job with it, and it's beautiful, and it's all interesting. But it's not quite where Uncharted 2 was when that was a 10 game. But 9.5, I mean, dear God, please, if you want to play it, it's my favorite game of the year. Like, Naughty Dog knocked it out of the park. Like, it's a
almost
great
like
game.
It's a great contender for a game club discussion coming up on this podcast.
Could be.
Do you think 2 episodes or 3 episodes? Like, how much can we break that thing down?
Do people like it when we give away how long a game is?
I don't know. Is it? I mean, it's
that
comparable.
cannot be considered a spoiler.
Okay, comparable to the other ones.
I know, but I know a
Kit
lot of people.
Harington's on the cover of Entertainment Weekly this week.
Don't talk about it.
You know?
I've gotten complaints when I said how many chapters were in something, so I was very careful not saying that here.
All right, close your ears if you don't want to hear how long Uncharted 4 is right now, people.
I would say it's between 12 and like 14 hours.
Okay. You think 3 episodes is warranted for
think
Game
so.
Club?
2 to 3, yeah.
2 to 3?
2 to 3.
All right, we'll figure
Are
it
there
out.
clean breaks?
You could
that you
probably
could
do
describe?
it pretty cleanly in 2 acts, actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that's maybe the better division point then. So that is coming up on May 26th.
Oh, that's cool. You're actually doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be
Okay,
the first episode of
sure.
our Game Club for that. So
Awesome.
You might want to wait and play right before that if you can save up some
Sorry,
money.
I just played it.
Oh, Reiner. God, why do you have to be so cool?
I'll just delete my review and we'll start again.
That'd be nice. But I do want to talk on this podcast about something that's related to what Bertz brought up, which is Amy Hennig used to work on Uncharted. Now she's working on a third-person Star Wars game. We learned on Wednesday another team working on a third-person Star Wars game is the Titanfall developer Respawn. Reiner, you seem to have a lot of opinions about this.
More Star Wars equals Reiner being happier. So, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, EA is completely in, and that's what we wanted, when Battlefront came out, and then there was just kind of, what's next? There's nothing. There's all these movies coming out, and there's nothing tied to these movies.
That's fine.
I
History's shown
disagree.
that doesn't work usually. I like it when they do
don't
their
do the
own
movie
thing.
game, but do your own thing in the new universe.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay. Would
Yeah,
you expect?
You don't have to have Finn or Rey or Poe. Do some other characters in that timeline.
Would you expect that, like, even with Star Wars stories jumping around the timeline so much in the film world, did you expect the 2 third-person games to be set in that Force Awakens new trilogy timeline?
No, that's kind of crazy. But I wonder when they're coming out. Obviously, everybody's like, "Oh man, it's Visceral's in trouble because Respawn's doing one." It's like, well, you're probably gonna play one year,
Not.
and then another maybe 2 years later, there might be like Battlefront 2 before that. Who knows?
I'm confused about the timeline because we've heard about, was it Stig? What's his last name?
Edmondson.
There we go. So he was the lead on God of War 3, and he's been over at Respawn for a little while. Now we find out he's working on the Star Wars game. But they said in a blog post on Wednesday that it was still a relatively small team, and they're hiring. It's probably the reason they did this announcement.
That's why they did the announcement completely.
Do you think he was working on this game the whole time?
No.
So something else got lost along the way, and now it's like, hey, Star Wars, who can say no to
I
that?
don't think it necessarily something was lost. So, like these deals come together in their own ways and they go through a lot of meetings. Disney's great at meetings.
Oh, man.
You have to get screenshots approved
Yeah.
by like 14 committees. So I think it's pretty natural evolution.
So
So we have DICE working on Battlefront. You'd assume there would be more Battlefront, like Battlefront 2 or something at some point. We got Visceral, Amy Hennig's team, working on something. We believe it's, from the way they've teased, it's Han Solo or something.
that's
along
your
those
theory
lines.
about it.
There's
yeah.
a Millennium Falcon all over the place.
Yeah,
That's
and
the one I'm excited
Boba
for
Fett
sure.
and
Yeah.
Han Solo.
Yeah.
I put a story up of their tweets about it. It's a look into their office too. It looks like that's
How
what
much
they're
would you
doing.
bet that it's a Han Solo game?
A lunch?
You-
I'm not rich,
you
man.
Wimp. That's not true. I've seen your house, the fanciest house in Minnesota.
And then we have Respawn working on who knows what, and then BioWare also still doing nights, and maybe they'll do other stuff too. I mean, that's a lot of
That'd be kind of cool.
Probably get 3 more Lego Star Wars games.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then
they'll never stop,
outside companies doing stuff like.
That's
They're
not a
all
game,
in,
right?
and that's a good thing. So I don't know how anybody could be disappointed in that. We're still getting Titanfall. They're building second teams for a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff. Visceral's not doing another Battlefield cop game. That's a great thing.
We don't know that yet.
Oh, that's true.
Hardline
boy.
2,
Please
baby.
don't.
Hold on.
I agree.
Bertz, I'm curious, since you're at Respawn, and I was there too, back for the Titanfall 1 cover story, you kind of hinted at it. I want to get your take on, the studio head, Vince Impala, going from the Call of Duty controversy and that whole saga to now dealing with one of the trickiest IPs in the world, Star Wars.
The suits that are just going to shoot down everything right and left.
How is that going to work?
I don't know. I mean, maybe Vince is a pit bull and he'll fight for what he believes in, but maybe his dynamic changes when he's working on a license. Call of Duty was his.
I see.
Right?
So it's just overly protective, but just the idea of getting to work on Star Wars, like, okay, I'll bend a little bit for the
Yeah,
in the
maybe.
name of
I mean,
Star
you don't
Wars.
have a choice. Ask J.J. Abrams. It sounds like they bend you to their will. They're the Sith.
I would totally be up for like another Rogue Squadron style or even X-Wing.
Oh, you
like
X-Wing?
shooter? Like,
X-Wing would be the best.
do you think there's any chance that could be what Respawn's working on? That kind
No,
of
they
already
said
said
it was a
it's
third person.
Okay.
third-person action adventure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I guess
if you're listening,
They didn't
somebody
say
else
that
should
it
work
wasn't
on
in a
that.
ship. Remember when they made that free-to-play X-Wing Star Wars game? Like, they announced it maybe 2 years ago, and then they just quietly canceled it. Do you remember this?
Who was working on that?
I don't know who the hell it was, but they were making a free-to-play space combat
Oh, that's
game.
right.
Do you remember that weird thing?
Yeah, they even had trailers and all that stuff up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
And
it didn't
just
look
disappeared.
great.
It launched and disappeared, I think.
Yeah. But they really, I know VR isn't lighting up the sales charts or the attention charts, but if it seems like Lucas is vaguely interested in VR stuff. They made a couple VR experiences. Battlefront VR is coming to PlayStation VR. They should just make a new VR X-Wing game, right? It's right there.
Oh, I would love it.
Yeah, or just do a new
re-
X-Wing game without VR and let me play it however I want.
Just
Both
remake
ways.
it with new graphics. It was such a great game.
Yeah, yeah.
The mission pacing, the challenges.
Yeah.
Add multiplayer, and we're there.
Well, hey, you also have flying around in space now in Call of Duty. Infinite Warfare was also debuted on Monday. It was a big week for space.
It's great.
I guess.
It's fantastic.
You excited for it?
Everything
Oh, yeah.
is space now. I really hope that tomorrow when Battlefield's announced, it's not space. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. So, Reiner, you're super excited for sci-fi.
Yeah,
Call of
like,
Duty.
When Advanced Warfare came out and they're like, we're going to the future. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then they were like, 30 years. I was like, oh.
We have a grounded version of the future.
Yeah.
It's another way of saying, like, not that exciting version of a future.
Yeah.
Although it does kind of look, a little bit more than 30 years from the trailer.
Well, this new one.
Like
Yeah,
it's
Infinite
fairly
Warfare.
sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, it ends with battleships in space, like Star Destroyers and dogfights up there. Yeah, that looks crazy. I'm all about that.
Do you think Bobby Kotick just has like a lot of stock in exoskeleton companies or something? Like, because all these Call of Duty games now, it's like, hey, exoskeleton, we're in the future, man. You can't stop it.
It's all a plan to keep him alive longer. Like when he's like super old, he'll have like all this stuff he needs.
Right, he's just floating in a Star
Secretly
Wars
funding.
tank.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's how Bobby works.
Exoskeletons.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kind of shocked that they keep going though. Like, where do you go from here? It seems like there's no looking back for them. It's just like, we got to
I think that's where you have to go. I mean, I think Advanced Warfare was successful enough. It's probably going to be Advanced Warfare 2 coming up after this then, right?
Yeah, and was it Advanced Warfare that had the multiplayer, the co-op aliens mode?
No, I think that was Ghosts.
That was Ghosts. So I
pretty
wonder if, you got to think, like, they're in space now. They're battling humans on space and maybe on other planets even.
Yeah, they showed like
Do
Saturn
they finally
and stuff.
go
Just become Halo.
Yeah, just go, hey, now here's our sci-fi wrinkle,
Aliens
like
in space.
completely.
I think they teased zombie stuff. Like the fans that dissected it and whatnot.
zombies will be in every game till the
this
end of
point.
But it's just a
time, I
matter
think.
of if zombies are going to be floating through space.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is the idea of them abandoning ghosts.
Because they announced that as like a trilogy or something, didn't they? Or
I don't-
Well,
Oh,
I
it
guess I
had,
don't
a
remember that
huge,
part.
it had a huge
Huge
cliffhanger.
cliffhanger.
at the
Yeah,
end
oh,
of it.
definitely that part. Yeah.
I mean, just like this story is not even close to done. And
But
I guess it's
that
done.
game was pretty much reviled by the multiplayer community, if I remember correctly.
And they were promoting that campaign and that story so much. Like, hey, it's the writer of Traffic. This is going to be serious. This is going to be great. And I enjoyed the campaign of Ghosts. It was silly at times, but I had a good time going
They
through
had that
thing.
dog?
They had the space
I like the
sequence, if
dog.
you remember, in the beginning, which was
did
more
that.
foreshadowing than we
my gosh,
envisioned.
yeah, they totally did.
Yeah.
Which was like gravity kind of.
Yeah. But now I wonder if I would expect them to have some nod to some hypothetical fans of Ghosts out there. Like, do you think it's technically going to be set in the same universe, just more years in the future?
I think so. Yeah.
Why
I think
not?
It's all a continuation.
You'll
yeah,
have a
to
robot
degree.
dog.
Yeah, exactly. Or you like find some memo that just has like the details, like, by the way, this is what happened to those dopey characters way back in the day.
Remember when the brother got dragged off? Well, this happened and he died.
Yeah, I would love to know what the hell they had.
Kind of
planned
like
for the whole thing.
Will Smith's character in Independence Day 2.
Yeah.
They just killed him off in a web post, like a little paragraph on the website.
This is what happened. You think there's going to be like a plaque or like an image of Will Smith in that movie? Just like the son will have an image
I
of
would
his
love
dad.
it.
Because I think, God, when they were on the fence of whether or not he was coming back, I think the offer was that he would be the president now, which would have been
Really?
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, how did he turn that down?
Yeah, how do you turn out being the president? But we should talk about other games people can play this week. Reeves, you reviewed Steven Sausage Roll.
Sure did.
It's an absurd game on Steam.
Yeah, it's been out for a couple weeks and it's slowly building up a following.
It's rolling downhill.
Yeah, it's rolling and building up the meat. I don't know. It's
building up the meat.
It's good. It's good. It's a good game. I enjoyed it. It's a puzzle game where you roll sausages onto grills and you try to cook them. But if you roll them onto multiple grills, they burn. So you got to be careful.
That sounds really simple and kind of dumb. But like the game is getting insane praise. Like Jonathan Blow's like, oh, it's one of the greatest puzzle games ever made. And all these crazy puzzle game designers are hailing this as brilliant.
It is hard. I think I can totally see it as like a Jonathan Blow game, if that makes sense. Just because it's so like to be fair, like the puzzle design feels really compact and tight, and like each puzzle is completely different from the others. So you're not kind of like using the same tricks over and over again. You kind of have to sit down and think about how to manipulate these sausages differently each time.
Okay.
This is what we do for a
And
living.
it has that Goat Simulator style, like weird, quirky charm to it.
I mean, but it's a better route than just having, hey, rotate these blocks.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, you got to stand out somehow, right?
Sausages is the secret to standing out.
This is how you make the sausage.
Yeah. But you gave
it was fun. I gave it an 8. You are this like little polygonal dude, and honestly, to mention like the graphics, no exaggeration, look like they could be like early PS1. Like it's so bad, but in some way kind of charming, just because it's so simple.
Is this why you wanted to play Intelligent Cube again? Did this game remind you of Intelligent Cube on the PlayStation 1?
Was that before or after this?
I think it was around the same time. I think it triggered it in your brain.
Maybe. Although that game, they're not similar at all, to be fair.
Oh,
but,
really?
But I do like Intelligent Cube a lot.
Okay. I thought like slowly rotating these cubes or these sausages.
Yeah, no, the mechanics are completely different. But so you control this little dude that walks around, and he has a pitch, like basically a giant fork in his hand that he can use to move the sausages.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can like push him against walls and stab him and move him around that way.
Okay.
But the confines of the lever are so small that just moving him around is kind of hard, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's almost a game that you have to like go watch a YouTube video or something to see how people are playing it.
Watch a
kinda,
let's
like,
play of a
understand.
very slow, hard puzzle game. That's going to be
That's
the way
right.
to go for Steven Sausage
Well, or at
Roll.
least look at some images. Or
Yeah,
go read
yeah.
my review and look at the trailer.
Also a game you should check out just for the
Don't
absurdity
listen
of
to
it.
us talk about it.
Absolutely not. Let's get scenario. But Push Me, Pull You came out on PS4 this week. It's coming out on Steam and Mac and Linux and whatnot in the future. But it's very much in that vein of like Sports Friends and stuff that seems like Sony's been courting on the PlayStation 4, where it's like, hey, if you want a good drunken party game, you can play with 4 players, even on 2 controllers where people like share a controller. But it's this weird tug of war where you're kind of like a human centipede, cat dog type creature just combined on both ends. It is absurd. You should absolutely look it up and look at like maybe even our test chamber of it. That'd be great. If you're in the mood for a crazy local multiplayer game, check out Push Me Pull You.
Human centipede.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm thinking, is it?
So many people in the comments section, because it has like a cutesy kind of Katamari-esque vibe
Okay,
to
I'm
it.
thinking something completely different.
Well, it's not
Well,
as
it's
graphic as
still
Human
like
Centipede, but it's still
2 human heads
it's
combined.
really disturbing. It's really effed up in a cutesy kind of way. But it's so funny reading the comments because people were like, one person commented and they said, looking at this game, I now realize that all video games are a sin. And like other people are like, I'm gouging my eyes out. I can't comprehend it. It is twisted in a charming way. So please look up footage of that. Also, real quick, out this week, Superhot is out on Xbox One.
Started
that's
playing
right.
it.
Great
Love
game.
it. Absolutely love it.
Oh, I love that game so much.
One thing I'll say is the resolution on your TV matters here because, you know, the bullets that you see in the distance that you're trying to track where you're moving
Yeah.
can be maybe won't show up on certain resolutions at like 720p. So I think it is probably, there's more of an advantage for you on PC with those
Okay.
a higher resolution monitor or settings. Where it's
Interesting.
like, yeah, every once in a while I'll see it and it'll just be like a couple pixels like jaggies, like it's like which way is that trajectory, and I have to move a little and see where it's going. But as you know, as you play this game, time only moves when you move. So you're trying
moves
to
very
dodge
slowly when
you're trying to
not.
dodge bullets, but there's still bullets being fired very fast. So you can see where it is, but then when you can't really read where it is,
That's tough.
you're kind of like, am I going left or right? Left might be my brain, right might be safety. So that's tough. So I died a couple times just from that, but the game's brilliant.
It's so unique. It's so cool. It's one of my favorite experiences of the year.
FPS puzzle.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot of trial and error, I
But
suppose.
also skill based because you run out of ammo, and it's super cool.
I love you can throw a gun at a guy and then he drops his gun and you grab his gun out of the air,
Mid-air.
shoot
And
another
then
guy,
shoot him in the head with his own gun.
It's
got
really cool, actually.
Great style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Reeves, I don't think we
it's-
ever talked about it, but what did you think of the story in Superhot, or the small bit of narrative that they
love it.
weave you through? Ryan's super into it.
Did you finish it?
No. But I'm getting bits of it. You know, the
Yeah.
in DOS or whatever, the communicator in DOS.
It's weird.
The way
yeah.
they lay that
Apple TV,
out,
whatever it is.
where you have to type, was really cool, and then it types on screen, and then there's like this. I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought it was like the way that reaches a conclusion is interesting and kind of makes you think a little bit. So
A little bit. Yeah, I appreciate how weird it is. I don't know if they fully nail what they're going for,
But it starts out, we could talk about, it starts out with two people talking, one guy recommending, hey, you got to check out this game, which is Superhot. And you boot it
.exe.
up, and then, you're in your chat messenger, you close that, and you just boot that file, and you go and play the game, and then you come back and you start talking about it again.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool.
it's
it
very
gets-
meta.
it gets even weirder than that.
Yeah.
Too. So
I can't
it'll be
wait-
interesting to see what you think.
I'm really excited to see that game in VR. I will absolutely play that again, and I don't know how the hell that's going to work. Because, like,
Is that something they're doing?
yeah, for sure.
okay.
But when you move your head, time moves. Like, when looking around counts as movement. So I'm really curious.
So you're going to have to, like, move slowly.
I don't know how the hell it's
You're
going to
need
work
your-
in VR.
The muscles in your neck are just going to be gargantuan after playing this.
Perfect. It's like Kyle
You're just
after he
going to be
played
like
the climb.
paused perfectly like this. Like, okay, that guy over there. All right, turn my head.
But it's only like what 3 hours long or something. It wasn't super long. So
But
if
there's
you're-
like challenge modes. There's some
perfect.
other stuff.
VR.
there's a lot more stuff to it. But I'm just saying, if you're in the mood for like a bite-sized game, like this is a great like.
Really
you
novel.
got a free evening. Like I want to check out this cool game.
Right. Yes, absolutely. But hey, do you guys want to move on to some reader emails?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We got some emails from folks that wrote into podcast@gameinformer.com. A bunch of good emails again. We thank everybody who writes in, even though we don't read them all on the air. I read through every one, I promise. Some I should share with you guys.
Sure.
There's some bizarre stuff in there, but usually pretty fun. All right, so what we got? We got Andrew Jelly Hamilton from Ontario, Canada. Let's see. He's not going to throw away his shot. He writes in, why does the podcast panel, and in particular Ben Hanson, constantly refer to the other people on the podcast by their full names throughout the entirety of the podcast? It's downright bizarre the frequency full names are used throughout the piece. Does Ben Hanson walk up to Dan Tack and say, Dan Tack, what are your thoughts on this feature? I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but I've just been silent for too long.
You were doing that at GlitchCon this last weekend. You called someone like by his full name. I was like, you don't need to call him his full name. Like you kept saying his full name.
up at the panel?
No, just as we were walking to Buffalo Wild Wings. I was like, what are you doing? Like,
Oh, Chris Webber.
yeah,
some
you kept
fan.
calling
Yeah.
him Chris Webber. You're like, hey, Chris Webber. And it's like, what
Yeah,
are you
you're
doing?
right. I got multiple emails about this, about people saying, why do you call everybody their full name?
Stop it.
Ben Hanson thinks he has power over people.
It's
if you
just
say their full
certain.
name.
I think Dan Tack I do a lot just because I think I like his name.
Dan Tech has a good name for that, though.
Yeah, because I guess you could. I don't know. I'm split between calling him Dan or Tack, so I just go Dan Tack. But I don't think I call you Andrew Reiner. All you guys, I say your last name. So, Reiner, do you want to talk a little bit about
Check the
GlitchCon this year?
It was fun. We played
Yeah.
a full super replay of a game called The Sniper 2, which never came out here in the States.
Yeah.
It was fun interacting with the crowd. It was a game where the crowd hung on every shot that we took.
Oh boy.
Yeah, a lot of yelling at the screen, stuff like that, and us.
Tim
so that
Terry
was fun.
came in to visit, which is nice.
Yeah, Tim
Yeah.
Terry was there for the whole thing. We played from 8 p.m. till midnight, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
were
Kim Wallace the next day had a panel that she did on diversity in games, which I unfortunately didn't get to see, but I heard it was very good.
Yeah, she did a good job. Everybody did. There's a lot of great panels there, just game development, inside information and whatnot. So definitely pay attention to it next year if you're interested in a
and-
cool gaming convention in the
And
cities.
the big thing is it is a gathering of Minnesota game developers showing off their indie games. It's held at the University of Minnesota, but run by this organization called Glitch.
There's
Yeah.
a Buffalo Wild Wings across the street.
You've got to go.
Yeah,
You've got to
it's
go
really
with Chris
good.
Webber.
Gotta
Hey,
check this out.
hey, Wade, producer in the booth. Do you have any ballpark time frame for when maybe some of that footage will be released of our panel?
Hopefully soon. Some of the capture stuff. Some issues with the capture, but
Oh, great. We'll talk about it later.
yeah.
Okay. Look forward to that, everybody. Some issue-filled stuff. All right. Jake Z writes in and says, why isn't the Ratchet & Clank franchise as revered as the Zelda franchise? It has similar Metacritic scores, but is talked less about as part of gaming canon. Is it because games media people are older and grew up with Zelda and not Ratchet & Clank? What are your thoughts?
It wasn't made by Nintendo.
Similar
you know?
Metacritic.
I see.
I think it's not as old.
Not as good.
For one, it's not as different either. Like Ratchet & Clank hasn't changed or evolved as much. I love Ratchet & Clank. Let me start out.
They have their twist. They have like the all for one. They have
You get to fly in space.
Yeah, you get the tower defense stuff. Like,
I mean, they're at
I
the
think
core,
the
they're
basic core
very
formula, though.
different games. One is a run and gun shooter with a mascot and a robot, and the other one is this dungeon spelunking adventure. And I think
write this down.
people gravitate more towards the adventure, right? Like,
But he
I
has an
think there's-
interesting point as far as like the people covering games. Do you think we're all just nostalgic over early Zelda games, whereas like the next generation of gaming journalists are going to look back on Ratchet & Clank for the PS2 as like, oh, that was the first game I ever
Maybe
played.
it's.
There
I mean,
it
it's
is.
more what system you grew up with, then, right? I guess it's like Sonic versus Mario in a capacity to a degree.
Although it's these two I've never thought of comparing
no,
necessarily.
yeah,
but-
yeah, but I mean that's two different systems. Like
Yeah.
you're not playing Zelda on your PlayStation.
I mean, how many things are as revered as Zelda, though, is, too? It's kind
Yeah,
of
that's upper echelon.
What else we got? Mario, Half-Life. What's on that Zelda pantheon?
Doom.
Oh, you okay? I guess I'll go along with you. We'll see how
Yeah,
the new one
it
is.
just spawned an entire genre of game.
Yeah,
No
take
big
it or
deal.
leave it.
Popularized, I should say.
Metroid.
Yeah.
But I guess I mean you look at the new generation. I guess you could say to go back to an earlier
Grand
thing on the
Theft
podcast. Uncharted is huge.
Yeah.
For PlayStation, that's bigger than Ratchet
Elder
by far.
Scrolls.
God of War.
Elder Scrolls, good choice. I actually, I heard the new Ratchet & Clank was the best selling or the fastest
Selling
for the entire series. And I just actually finished that this last weekend. That is a
good game.
As a fun, solid, gamey game.
Interesting that did that well, and the movie just totally tanked.
Apparently the movie is abysmal, which is so confusing because the clips from the movie that are in the game, like they seem fine.
I thought they were good.
They seem inoffensive completely.
What did Kyle say about his daughter seeing it? Just like she didn't move, didn't even
Yeah,
react to
she
the movie.
didn't
It's just
react
like
to anything and was like, oh, I liked it.
She's like mirrored Dan Tack's facial expressions in the back of the theater the entire time. All right, Ramses from Los Angeles writes in
What's Dan
and says,
Tack's last name?
I forget. Tecmocan, I think. Ramses from Los Angeles writes in and says, wondering what your thoughts are on Zelda and the NX being delayed to 2017. And also Josh Jones writes in and says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hyped are you for the NX? He's at an 8.
8. Oh, interesting.
So those two
I am
bundled
highly
together.
unsurprised, actually, about the delay of Zelda.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I am,
we all saw
actually.
that coming a mile away.
I thought NX would be this year, though.
I really
I
thought
thought
so
it'd be
too,
this
yeah.
holiday, and it all made sense with Zelda not coming out in 2015 like they wanted to or whatever.
that they promised repeatedly in that video. It's all surreal to me because of that video where like it was a joke, a big recurring thing, and it's like, no, hand to God or you can kill me where I stand. It'll come out in 2015.
But yeah, I mean, I was shocked, and I think it's a monumental, huge disaster for Wii U fans. I mean, that game just slipping out, and that was, for a lot of people I talked to, one of our guys in production bought a Wii U just for Zelda.
yeah. Oh,
and
interesting.
is now
He
very
could have
much
skipped
like,
an entire console,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
still
I didn't
great
need that
stuff on
system.
there.
Pikmin 3 is really good.
Yeah, don't forget about Splatoon.
Yeah, so I'm disappointed. My hype level is through the roof for any new technology. Like I love
I'm
new
with
tech,
ya.
and Nintendo always does weird, crazy gimmicks.
That's why I'm so much
curious
more
what they're going to
excited.
do.
Yeah, I'm so much more excited for the NX than if they announce the Xbox 2, whatever
Sure,
the hell
yeah.
they call it, just because it's like, okay, I think I have a rough ballpark of what the next Xbox
more
is going
power.
to be. But knowing there's some mysterious gimmick or Nintendo
Yeah.
thinks they have something up their sleeve, it's going to be this bizarre curveball that we're going to be talking about for weeks after they finally unveil it.
I don't know how hype I am for the actual console because we don't know anything about it, but I probably am like an 8 or a 9, just hyped to know about it. Like I'm excited to know.
Okay.
I'm hyped for the announcement. Let's say.
I'm also very hyped for the announcement. Bertz, are you at least excited?
No,
you've been-
I'm always curious to see, like, are they going to pretend like third party matters again? Are they just going to go, you know what,
Or
we
do they have
realize,
them?
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need that anymore. We're just going to do what we do. I'm super curious.
It seems like step one for Nintendo, no matter what, before you have hardware or anything, you should go out and talk to all third parties about what they want and factor that into your plans and try to line it up in a way where they can bring their other games from Xbox One, PS4 over to your system.
It certainly seemed like that was their push with the Wii U. Because remember, before that came out, the Darksiders 2 team was talking about, like, oh, they're actually being pretty open and talking to us, and they want this on the debut.
but then they came out really underpowered.
Right. Yeah.
And made a lot of problems for a lot of teams.
And you can't port a game like Call of Duty that has online infrastructure. You know what I mean? Like their online was a step in the right direction, but it wasn't
now
where it
they're
needed
all-
to be if that's what they were going for.
Yeah, and now we have the Nintendo account and all that stuff. So I encourage people who are excited for the NX to go back and listen to that conversation we had with Andy McNamara weeks ago on this podcast, because I think that was very interesting. But let's see. We got Paul Sanchez writing in from Fresno, California. He says he loves the podcast, and he's been listening since the reboot. Thank you, Paul. Simple question. Do you prefer in open world games to have the edge of the playing area being tall, impassable mountains or water as far as you can see? P.S. Thin mins are great. You're right. Thank you.
They are.
Water or mountains in your open world edges? What do you like?
Isn't it nice to have a little bit of both? So you're not just at an island and everything's
But if you had to
water.
choose all one or all the other,
Water, because I question if I can get into those mountains. Whereas
Okay.
water, sometimes you just look at it and go, nope, there's nothing out there. But other times you'll try to swim out there and then you hit that invisible wall and turn back and you're like, you never tried again.
just do the Just Cause or Far Cry thing. Like, I'm just going to keep swimming forever and see what could possibly
But
happen.
mountains, you're like, okay, maybe I can do that.
I
Maybe
like
can
the
get over there.
impenetrable fog, or like Mad Max did a really cool thing where it's just
yeah.
like drive into the wasteland and good luck, dude.
Yeah.
And I love having, like, it was an edge, it was a boundary in Mad Max, but it was still a soft edge. Like, you could feel like you could game it a little bit and like, oh, maybe I can get farther this time. So that's every world just needs some
Fallout
crazy lightning.
4 had a similar thing. It was just all radiation.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
you could go beyond the map. It was kind of cool.
All right, there we go. Hey, speaking of Fallout 4, Robert Real Talk writes in and says, am I the only one who thinks Nick Valentine is awesome? Quote, I just told him I was rigged to explode and started going beep, bop, boop.
What?
He likes Nick Valentine and he wants
He
to
just explode?
He did, yeah. Robert Real Talk
man.
did.
No,
Do you think
we-
Nick Valentine is underrated as a character?
No, I think he's the most talked about character in that game.
All right.
And Fallout 4 is a big game. So, but in terms of the larger scope of characters in the industry, maybe he's not revered as much as he probably should be because he is written very well. And his missions were some of the best in the game.
And his voice actor is in Dishonored 2 now.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
really?
right.
Who's his voice actor?
Stephen Russell.
Oh, is it
was that-
really?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
He was also Jar Jar Binks in Phantom Menace.
is that right?
No,
Oh,
that's
fun fact. Fun fact. Also related to Dishonored 2's voice cast, my favorite actor that I can never ever remember the name of.
Sam Rockwell.
Thank you, Sam Rockwell. There's nobody that I like more in movies and can never remember that name. Am I alone on
Is
that?
it just
Wait, he
super
was in
boring
Moon.
name or what?
He's in
We're
Moon.
connecting all these dots.
That's exactly right. Directed by Duncan Jones, who we talked to in the upcoming interview.
Interesting.
It's one big happy family. Hey, Ben Hanson and GI crew. I was wondering if you could identify each person in your group by their personality genre-wise. I think Ben Hanson would be the simulator guy, since he likes Stardew Valley. Dantak would be the RPG guy, given his love for Dark Souls and Darkest Dungeon. I'm curious to know what each of you would identify as and why. Any racing, sports, or puzzle guys out there? Thanks, says Tyler from Boise, Idaho.
Well, Kato's the racing guy.
Yep, he's also a sports guy.
Yeah.
Bert's your sports and shooter guy.
Shooter.
An open world.
Okay.
You know, GTAs. Stuff like that.
I feel like there is like an interesting graph, like like those skill
Well,
trees.
We need our beats, right? We
Yeah.
need people that cover certain things, so we have somebody who's knowledgeable about every particular genre.
Yeah. Who do you think, Reiner? I think you're a good case of like you're
Everything.
covering out your spider webs,
everything.
connecting to
Reiner,
every
Western
point on that.
RPG.
Yeah, you and Cork you're very versatile. You
Yeah, we play it
a
all.
little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Maybe at MOBAs, esport wise, that's the gap in your little giant chart.
No, I've been trying to fill that in a little.
Oh, really?
I am a somewhat good player at Clash Royale now.
Okay.
I play it all the time.
All right.
I have
Hottest esport around.
I've been watching some League of Legends stuff. I mean, it's esports is taking over. Like it's growing. I got to get to know that because it's such a big part of the industry.
Right.
Will I play Dota and stuff like that? Probably not as much as TAC, but I will try it out just to know it, just to know the terminology and what it is. So
Yeah.
I don't want any gaps in my
Right.
my expertise.
It
in what I
feels
know.
gross to have those gaps. I would actually like to visually represent Game Informer's staff's interest in genres. I think it'd be interesting just to have like a landing page that shows everybody's
That'd be
case and
cool.
stuff.
Yeah.
Make a
That's
pie chart
interesting
for
that
everybody or
TAC,
something.
he thought RPG.
Yeah.
I don't think that
I
right
think
away.
Kim
like,
and Joe when I think
strategy, like
4X
MMO.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He obviously likes those as well, but when
Right.
he plays shooters, he's a decent shooter
I think
player.
his
So
favorite games just involve like Excel spreadsheets of numbers.
Anything
all it
that's
really
hard
comes down.
and a lot of number crunching, I think. Is
Yeah,
what
any
it
kind
is.
of emotional storytelling, I just see him shutting down.
Yeah, like
Nah, not
like-
interested.
BioWare, I don't think is. for
Yeah,
him.
I don't know, because he's like a huge Final Fantasy IV fan. Like he does like those RPGs.
but he probably likes it because of the combat and stuff like that.
Nah, we'll talk.
Ask him who his favorite character is in the games.
Remember, we were debating the top 10 Final Fantasy villains, and he was losing his mind in our Slack conversation about this one villain, Golbez. What's the Final
Yeah,
Fantasy
but it
IV?
could be because of like an AoE attack or something.
He had a really cool finishing move.
Yeah. Mike Ogdeath from Houston writes in, and he's wondering if when we travel to see a game early in development on a cover story trip or otherwise, if it dampens our enthusiasm, seeing a game that we're excited for, like in a super rough state.
Only if it sucks, I guess. But not usually, actually.
We should point out Dishonored 2, I mean, coming out in November, was in really good shape.
Great
Yeah.
Surprisingly competent.
Yeah. That's a good point. Sometimes you do see it and it's pretty rough, and I can't think of one offhand, but I think we're kind of used to seeing games that are in rough shape, and a lot of times they just turn out well, and so you kind of like take that with a grain of salt, knowing that like, well, the team's still working on it, so like obviously you can kind of like see past the gray boxes.
And we usually choose games from teams that have a proven track record because of that, right? You know, like
We do have conversations in the office when it comes to review time. If someone played like 3 hours of a game for preview, if that, they know too much, if that magic's kind of gone for those 3 hours, we will try to sign someone else to that review just so they're going in fresh. It's like seeing a movie trailer that goes on too long and you think you've seen too much of the movie.
Yeah, but seeing like, games and cover pitches will never dampen your enthusiasm to be like, oh, now I've seen a super rough version of this level, and now when I see the level in the real thing, I'll just always think back to that.
It could dampen my enthusiasm of, I don't think I want to play that, that's not my thing,
But it's like,
but those usually aren't on our covers.
Right. Yeah, we get 12 a year.
It's
We
always
usually try to pick the
interesting.
biggest ones we can.
Yeah, too. Usually it's like what we see is usually pretty different than what's in the final game, because sometimes we'll see like an amalgamation of what's in the final
Sometimes.
game. Depends on how early, like BioShock Infinite, for example, like that game changed quite a bit since we first saw it. So like the version we saw didn't really exist in the final game.
Yeah. But it's like, when you're making chocolate chip cookies, if you look in through the oven and see them when they're halfway done, you still know eventually it's going to be a delicious chocolate chip cookie. It's like, oh, this looks like crap. It's all runny. Bah.
The vision
Oh,
was
I know what
there.
this-
Their ideas were there. It was just fine tuning that.
Yeah, I think like the
balancing
most anticipated game that I went on a cover story trip for, maybe like Phantom Pain, but I think of like the Mass Effect 3 cover story trip. And there was a point when I saw on the wall they had the outline of the whole story. And so that kind of dampened my enthusiasm a little bit because it's like, well,
You
I
read
feel
the ending?
Yeah, well, not the ending, no. But I remember looking at that and being like, I should memorize this just so I know roughly how this game's going to play out. And they had like the big chapters up there. And I remember I made the little, what do you call it, mnemonic in my head where the chapters were GC. So I was like GameCube. That was like my memory, my way of like memorizing the story structure for Mass Effect, because like it broke down into the first part is about the genophage, then it's the Citadel, then it's the Geth, then it's Cerberus. Like that's the way Mass Effect 3 is structured according to BioWare's wall.
And then there was just blank pieces of paper that were colored red, green, and blue.
And a bunch of question marks. Come up with ending quickly. We only have a couple months left. Yeah. All right. Anyways, let's see. We got Joshua in Irvine. He writes in and says, your cover art for the Final Fantasy 15 issue is amazing. Sorry, Bertz. I know you aren't the biggest fan. How do I go about getting a print to hang on my wall? Question number one.
It's a good question.
Is that a thing people can do?
We sometimes do prints and sell them. Yeah, that's something we need to discuss, but we rarely do. But we did do it for BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, there's been several games in the past.
The Sam Prell, not Sam Prell, the Sam Spratt, Sam Prell writer, Joystick and other outlets, but Sam Spratt did the greatest characters of all time or whatever that we did.
Yeah.
We sold those. That sold pretty well, actually.
So if people want a cover, is there a path for them now?
No,
it's
not individual.
like if there's a
issues,
groundswell, then we'll put them out.
Okay.
But that would be a good one. I love that cover.
Yeah, I
think
did
that
too.
was really cool.
As a follow-up question, what is your personal favorite cover art that you've seen since your time or during your time at Game Informer?
It's hard to beat that, like BioShock Infinite.
Oh, interesting.
Cover art.
I really like the Dishonored 2 Emily cover art, like
Yeah.
with making it look like an old-timey magazine.
Are you
or
thinking
book.
that's like your favorite, really? The
No.
one you just
I
did?
think no. I think South Park I really like just because it's so strange
Okay.
to see South Park on a cover. But I think my favorite is probably Far Cry 4.
I was going to mention
was
Far Cry
really
4
cool.
because that one's up there a lot for me, too.
Yeah.
The
I like
original
how
Dishonored 2 had really cool cover art with the mask.
yeah,
There's
that was pretty cool.
the black and white Batman Arkham City I think it was. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Like,
that was before my time, but yeah,
Batman and Catwoman.
really great. Reiner, you only have a couple to choose from.
Can't pick from my children.
Okay.
No, BioShock. I mean, putting that together, I had a couple conversations with Ken Levine on the phone about the direction that we wanted to go with those covers. It's Ken Levine's idea through and through, but just hearing him talk about like Saturday Evening Post and the Rockwell stuff, and I was just like, I'll go talk to Andy about this. I don't know. And he's talking about like fake cigarette ads on the back and all that. I was just like, we'll see. But it ended up, once we finally saw it, it was just like, this is the most stunning stuff. And we did what, 4 of them?
I think we did 3.
Three of them. I think there's 4 originally.
And they're all
but yeah, I
great.
think we did
All
3.
3 of them were great.
It's before my time, but there's actually a video in the hub for BioShock Infinite about you guys talking about designing that cover and whatnot. So if people really want to learn more about it. Let's see. Seth from Cottage Grove, Oregon writes in and says, hey, GI crew, I was a little late to the PS4 party, so recently I've been playing catch-up on some of the games I missed out on when it was launched. I finally got around to playing Infamous Second Son, and I'm loving it. When the prompt came up in the world to start the Paper Trail side quest, I got excited to get a new power. My hopes were almost immediately dashed because the quest requires you to go to a website that no longer exists. Apparently it does not around anymore. So
That's not that old.
I know. So because of that, I'm not able to actually complete everything the game has to offer. My question is, have you ever missed out on any content in a game that for whatever reason is impossible to find now?
Well, that's like DLC you would have had to pay for still, right?
Yeah, I forget how that worked in that game. I think of like It's Too Late Now, but all the Beatles Rock Band DLC, that's all taken offline, which is a bummer, but you know, could be worse. There's always that Rock Band DLC, you know, they're plucking one here and there and taking it down from the store. I think of like Dawn of War 2, which I think of because Dawn of War 3 was just announced this week as well. But with Dawn of War 2, I went back to try and play it a couple of years ago, and it was all tied into Games for Windows Live, which is dead. So it was just completely unplayable. It's like, okay, great. Really wanted to check out this RTS, but I guess not.
This new age of gaming.
Oh, it's fantastic,
It's
isn't
not
it?
looking too good for the future.
Does anything stand out for you guys on that front?
I can't. I mean, there's things like, you know, Calendar Man and Arkham where you had to come at certain days. Or I think Brothers in Arms, to circle back again, had something where you had to check in every so often for an achievement or some kind of quest or something. Play it a certain number of days in a row or something like that. I mean, there's just weird stuff like that that requires your time and being there at a specific day. The Ratchet and Clank Dead Star DLC that just hit this last week, and you had to play certain days, otherwise you couldn't get it.
I don't even know what this is.
You could get like
DLC
you could get like Ratchet and Clank portraits and missions in the game if you played like on Saturday and Sunday between 10
in
a.m.
the Dead
and-
Star game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, you couldn't get it, so that stuff's gone.
Right.
This isn't quite the same, but I remember a while back being excited about the Sam and Max, the original adventure game that I'd never played, and I went and bought a copy, and I just couldn't get it to work on my PC.
Great.
And so stuff like that, where it's like, well, now my system is just too beyond, like, or Grim Fandango was the same way, like back before the re-release. So I was actually really excited when that came out, but I was like bummed for several years that I couldn't go back and finish Grim Fandango.
And I hate just that PC world in particular because there's so many great games where it's like, I just have no idea if this is playable. I would love to play Age of Empires 1. I don't think I can.
Yeah.
I could cruise forums for hours to try and piece together some cracks to try and get this crap up and running again. But
yeah, it's too bad we're so tied to emerging technology all the time, you know, because with film, you can, or with music, you just put it on a new, you know, like here's the new Blu-ray or here's the new UHD.
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah.
You know, we have to redesign stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, let's see. Brian Rodriguez writes in and says, hey guys, I love listening, watching every week. My question is pretty random. What are your most anticipated movies this year? Also, which movie is currently your favorite for 2016? What sends out, you guys?
Mine comes out in like a day. It's Civil War.
We're seeing it together. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be
I'm
fun.
really looking forward to that too. I hear nothing but great things about
I've
it.
heard, and it might very well be my favorite movie of the year. We'll
Yeah?
see. I'm trying to even think of what it came. Oh, Deadpool was also really good.
Yeah.
Probably was.
Reiner, have you seen Deadpool yet?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think?
Loved it. Yeah, it was fun.
There we go.
It was too short. It felt like it began and ended. And I
They
was
had
like,
to get it in under budget, man. The thing was made for nothing.
But yeah, that was that's exactly what it needed to be. And Ryan Reynolds, who I think is sometimes a little much in his roles, especially Green Lantern and stuff like that, I think he knocked it out of the park. He was great.
A little much.
This was built for him. This character. I think.
It was perfect.
So far, I'm thinking like Jungle Book's up there. That was really, really impressive. Zootopia.
Oh,
obvious
Zootopia.
dumb
I forgot
answer.
about that. Yeah.
I'm sure Civil War will be up there too. But what about in the future?
Oh, there's a ton of.
Rogue One, a
Oh,
Star Wars
yeah.
story, which we're just going to call Star Wars Rogue One because
There's a new Star
I don't
Trek.
like their name.
I think that I know everyone was crapping on that trailer, but I love the reboot of Star Trek movies a lot. I think that movie's going to be fine.
Yeah, and Justin Lin, the director who did the Fast and Furiouses. Roll your eyes if you want, but those are really good character
They're
movies.
Fun action movies.
He also
With
did
a
True
big
Detective
cast.
season 2. So
2 episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I believe so. But Star Trek is a character-driven movie. Just replace the cars with spaceships. Should be good.
Done deal. Also, more excited about his Space Jam 2 than I should be.
Oliver Stone is coming back with Snowden, which I'm really intrigued by because
yeah.
he's pretty much the most controversial man on the planet, right? Like
Right,
people
yeah.
either hate him or they believe in his cause.
Did you watch the documentary Citizen 4?
No, not yet.
Oh, you should absolutely watch that. It's fascinating, but I have no faith in Oliver Stone. All because I went and saw a documentary that he directed once, and it was about South America. It was one of the worst documentaries I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
And
Just
so now I've just
super
held this
boring?
grudge. It was abysmal. And also, the subtitles were all in white, and there were a ton of white shots. You just couldn't see anything. It's a disaster.
Wow.
And Nicholas Winding Refn the guy who did Bronson and Drive, has a new movie coming out called The Neon Demon.
Oh,
That
really?
I'm super stoked. That's going to be at Cannes in a couple weeks.
Oh, I had no idea.
And then Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I was going to
Of
mention
course,
Doctor
there we
Strange.
go.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Anybody?
Yeah, I'm excited for that too.
Yeah?
More Harry Potter. A lot of Harry Potter this year.
The new trailer got me a little bit excited. Like, I'm not in love with that Harry Potter world, which we covered on a replay a while ago, but like seeing some old-timey New York, is that what it is?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
just-
basically playing Pokemon, right?
Yeah, that seems fun.
I'd be interested to like go from that to like Doctor Strange and see which magical world is more magical. or
Yeah,
something.
and then there is a new Harry Potter book just to shift to a book, but that's coming this year too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy, based on a play. It's a script of the play that they're releasing in book form.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, they had some other writer come in and
So it's
take
gonna
care
be
of
like super short then.
no, it's called The Cursed Child. It takes place 13 years after the last book or something like that, with Harry working at the Ministry of Magic, and his child, it sounds like one of his children, and he has 3, is cursed. So
This is a slippery slope.
yeah, it sounds interesting.
It's just going to keep going forever now.
Yeah,
It's just opening
that's
a
fine
whole
with
new
me.
generation.
It's an awesome universe.
Are we supposed to get the next King Killer Chronicle this year too?
That'd be great.
Patrick Rothfuss.
I would love that. That's a book, but
I'm not sure.
Hope so.
It's a good
that's a
series.
great story.
It wasn't until Googling movies coming out in 2016 for the specific question from Brian that I saw that Christopher Guest is making a new movie called Mascots. All about mascot lives, and it's like
that's
normal
amazing.
improv troupe. I had no idea. I'm super excited for that now. Also, I'm really curious about BFG from Spielberg.
Yeah, Spielberg's
See how that goes.
Which
Also,
is a Doom movie.
that's right. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
you
a few people
took you a
know.
while there, Hanson.
Sorry, man. Sorry. What do you guys think about the Warcraft movie?
Yeah.
Oh, did we not mention that one? Oh,
Well,
I love the actor from Vikings, so
Okay. I don't know a single actor in the Warcraft movie. The little baby orc doesn't look familiar.
well, it's an orc,
Oh, I see.
a real orc.
But he's a good actor.
yeah, he plays Ragnar in Vikings, and he's got these crazy twitchy eyes, and like he looks brutal.
Perfect
So
for Warcraft.
I think he'll be good in action sequences at least.
Yeah.
But I watched the trailers and I was like, especially the second trailer with the techno music or whatever that was over
yeah,
the top.
that's right. It's just called Wade Wojcik's Jams. Yeah.
Summer Jams 2016.
Yeah.
But after talking to Duncan Jones, which you'll hear in a little bit, I have faith. I think the vision is right for what it should be. We'll just see if they can deliver on it.
Yeah. I'm very curious. But to learn more about that, you can stay tuned to the upcoming interview. But before we get to that, we have to choose question of the week. Were you guys paying attention? What do you think? What stands out?
movies or what else? That's the only one I can remember.
Always the
Movies,
last one.
cover art was always an
cover
interesting
art's-
blast in
yeah.
the
I like
past.
the cover art one.
All right, let's go for cover art. So Joshua and Irvine, congratulations.
Congrats.
We'll ship you out something real nice. And be sure to stay tuned, everybody, for a long chat with Duncan Jones, the director of the upcoming Warcraft movie. So stay tuned for that.
I'm a medieval man. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Why do you keep touching me?
Duncan Jones, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Hello, very nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, digitally meet you. It's a real honor to have you. We don't have too many filmmakers on, so it's impressive to have one of your caliber on the show.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I hope I do. I hope I do it justice.
Do you feel like you're doing it justice?
Well, we'll start. We'll see. Okay. At least I'm a new. I'm a generation of peoples that grew up playing games. So hopefully there'll be more and more of them as the years pass, and I'm sure your show will be going for years.
So when you're absorbed in the post-production world of creating Warcraft, do you have time to play games on the side?
All I do in the free time that I do have is play XCOM 2.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Pretty much my go-to. That's my go-to escapism game.
Do you name everybody Warcraft characters within XCOM 2 then?
No, I name them. I make them all look like my friends and crew members, and then the people that piss me off get made tanks and get thrown up front as my as cover, and then and then everyone else that I like gets to stay behind and snipe.
God, I had such a good time with XCOM 2, and then I took a break because Stardew Valley, this dumb PC Harvest Moon wannabe, completely consumed my life. And now going back to XCOM 2, I'm so lost. I feel like I need to restart it because it's so brutal.
It really is. If you jump in halfway through a campaign, you've kind of lost all your mojo. You absolutely have to go back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's tough. This is a dumb, simple question, but what's your favorite game of all time, Duncan?
It's a tie. Ooh, it's a tie between three different games. I'd say. One by Bullfrog, a company called Bullfrog from the UK that made a game called Syndicate Wars.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely fantastic. It was kind of you were kind of the brains behind 4 kind of android-like sort of heavies down on the street. You saw sort of a future city, kind of a Blade Runner-inspired city from an isometric viewpoint, and you were in charge of 4 guys that you could basically upgrade, and you would basically just try and dominate sectors of the city using these 4 guys. You could kind of up their weapons, up their technology, and then there was just kind of this constant wave of enemies that you were dealing with and missions that you had to accomplish.
Did you ever check out?
That was a fantastic game.
Did you ever check out Satellite Rain? It's a game that came out, I think, this year or late last year.
Yes, I've played that. I've got that. And they are absolutely inspired by what Syndicate Wars was.
Hey, Duncan, you're really hardcore. You know Satellite Rain. That's amazing.
Do you want a job?
Yeah, and then another game, another of the 3 would be Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe, which was by the Bitmap brothers back in the day. Mainly, I think it was on the Amiga. The Amiga version is the one that I loved. I know they've remade that game over the years, and they've tried to update it. Every time they update it, it just doesn't work. But for whatever reason, there was this magic when they first made Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe, and it's a future sports game somewhere between, I don't know, ice hockey, soccer, and mixed martial arts. It's just
perfect.
It's incredibly violent with a steel ball that they throw to each other. There's kind of a goal mouth that you have to get the ball through. In my opinion, it is the best future sport game that ever got made.
Interesting. Up there with Windjammers. Okay. And
then finally, I think for my sort of nerdy RPG credentials, it would be Lord British Richard Garriott's Exodus Ultima 3 in the Ultima series.
Is there a British theme running throughout all of these games?
Well, I grew up there, so I kind of, a lot of my early gaming came from the UK or just in Europe, and although that's not true, Lord British is actually from Austin, Texas.
That's true. That's true. I take it back. That's
so
completely wrong.
He's faux British.
Lord Austin doesn't sound nearly as cool, though, really. So the Speedball...
Yeah, I think of all 3 of those, he's the only one who has his own medieval castle.
That's true. As hardcore as it gets. So the Speedball 2 film adaptation, is that coming soon, then?
Who knows? No, Speedball 2 is massively, it's just a great game. I wish there were a way to sort of get it right in a remake, but I just don't know. They just never seem to be able to quite get it right.
Yeah. Since it seems like your gaming knowledge runs pretty deep, I have a really nerdy question to ask you.
Yeah.
So in 2009, you released a movie called Moon, which I think everybody in the world loves. Everybody in the universe.
Film.
I think that's the way that works. There was
everybody loves it. Nobody's seen it.
But there's a game released on the DS in 2009, also called Moon. Did you ever experience any confusion about that?
No confusion, because not enough people saw my film for it to matter. But I was familiar with it, and I thought it was kind of weirdly synchronous and interesting. I don't think either of us knew that the other existed, but we both had a fascination, I think, with mining on the moon.
So you obviously being a big gamer, when you heard there was a Warcraft movie being made, did you kind of try to get that? Were you like, I'd like to take a shot at this?
Yes.
How did you get involved?
Let's get into the nerdy technicalities of it. I started and ran a guild for a game called Ultima Online for years, and having run that guild for a couple of years throughout the beta for Ultima Online, as Ultima Online finally came to a close with the kind of the cataclysm of Lord British being assassinated in the game, and then the world being overrun by demons, we decided that we needed to find a new game to move to. And we moved en masse to World of Warcraft when it eventually opened up, and we were sort of playing. We played that. So I became a fan of World of Warcraft because of my guild. But I had actually already played all of the real-time strategy games from Orcs and Humans on through, because I used to bounce back and forth between Warcraft real-time strategy games and Command and Conquer back when there was kind of an arms race in real-time strategy, and those two games were kind of going at it.
Yeah. Since you're a fan of the RTS games, do you miss the RTS Warcrafts? Do you feel like World of Warcraft has just kind of consumed too much of the Warcraft lore?
I mean, all of us. It's kind of crazy how many real, serious, hardcore fans of Warcraft were involved in the making of the movie.
Yeah.
Both myself, Bill Westenhofer, who was the VFX supervisor, Jeff White and Jason Smith, who were the sort of heads of the VFX at ILM, Rob Kaczynski, who plays Orgrim Doomhammer in the movie. All of us were hardcore Warcraft players. So we have this sort of constant contact with the guys at Blizzard, and we're all sort of saying, hey, you know what'd be really cool? Why don't you make a new RTS for the iPad or something like that? Could you just make a new Warcraft RTS, because we really want to play one? So they were getting bugged from us all the time to make a new RTS.
Please keep bugging them. We'd really appreciate it. But do you want to just walk us through, can you walk us through those early meetings with Blizzard, what you felt like their priorities were as far as the direction of the film?
Absolutely. I mean, they had been, I think since the very beginning of World of Warcraft, about 10 years ago, they had been talking about making the movie. And then I know that Legendary got involved very early on and started working with Blizzard to make the movie. They got Sam Raimi attached and were working with him for, I think, a couple of years on development of something. And they just never seemed to manage to, think that the things just didn't dovetail between what Sam wanted and what Blizzard and other interest groups wanted the film to be. So they just couldn't get it started. Eventually, Sam went off to go and do Wizard of Oz, I believe. And I had been a fan. Obviously, you can kind of get the sense of my fandom for these kind of things. I had been following along because I had sort of contacts at Blizzard and places, and I was saying, hey, what's going on with this movie? I'm really looking forward to seeing it. How's it all going? Is it going to happen? We're going to watch it? We're going to have a Warcraft movie soon? So I was bugging them constantly, and then found out that it had basically fallen off the tracks a little bit. And Source Code had just come out and was, being pretty well received. So I had kind of two movies in a row that were doing okay. And I said, look, I know I've only done sort of two smaller films, but if I could come and have a meeting, I would really, really love to do this movie. I think I could do something with it. And there was a little bit of a passing of time. And then eventually I got a phone call saying, why don't you, you want to have a look at this script that we've got? We'd like to talk to you about it. And I read it, and it was a draft that they'd been working on after Sam had left for a new approach to the Warcraft movie. And it was basically going back to the very first game, Orcs and Humans, and that first contact moment between Orcs and Humans, which made absolute sense. And I sort of read the script, and I was a little disappointed because the one thing that to me, one of the things that Warcraft does is, or certainly did, is it takes the fantasy tropes and the expectations and just puts a little twist on it, makes things a little bit different. If you're used to Tolkien and you're used to humans and very human-looking elves all being the good guys, and then the monsters and the ugly things are the bad guys, that's kind of the fantasy that most people know. And what Warcraft did in the early games is allow you to play as the orcs, as the monsters, and to be the hero on that side, and to have your own storylines where you're the hero and where you save the world for the orcs. And that's that was their twist. That's the thing that they did. And not to have that in the script, to me, was sacrilegious. That's not Warcraft anymore. So my pitch was, look, I would love to do this movie. I like elements of this script, but you really need to get the audience to be as comfortable and care as much for the orcs as you do for the humans. And that obviously resonated with Blizzard. They felt like, yes, that's what we've been missing. And I did a rewrite, and I integrated that into the script, and everyone got very excited.
Nice. Yeah, I think like in interviews, Sam Raimi had mentioned that he was really put off, or kind of, and it was really noticeable how much of like veto power Blizzard had in terms of the script and the direction of the film. Can you talk about like how much power Chris Metzen and the other folks at Blizzard have in the direction of this movie ultimately?
Well, look, I mean, the thing we have to remember is that they've been making these games successfully with with the love and support of their fan base for 20 years. This is a huge business for them, and they don't want some movie coming in and pooping on everything they worked so hard on. I get that, and as a fan, I don't want that either. So I think it's for me, it's an awful lot easier to come in and work copacetically with Blizzard because I kind of know what they care about.
Sure.
And as much as possible, I'm in sync with that, and I want the same things. So it makes my job much smoother. If you're coming at it from a completely different angle and you're fighting, what they see as being what makes Warcraft what it is, I can see that being very frustrating for both parties.
Yeah.
So Duncan, as a World of Warcraft player, did you hide your character in the movie, or does he have or he or she, whatever you played?
I did not hide my character, but there is a very graphic and obvious shout out to my guild.
Graphic, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just an infinite world of Easter eggs. The Warcraft universe is so big. I mean, how much were you focused on slipping in little things for the fans versus just trying to treat it like a more serious take on this fantasy story?
Look, there's basically two versions of me that you get when I have to do press and I have to do interviews. There's the version which obviously has to make it very clear that this is a movie which is absolutely for everyone, appeals to everyone, has a narrative and characters which you don't have to have any knowledge of, and that is true. But for you, who are sort of more game-centric and understand the sort of excitement that people love Warcraft are going to have for this, there is so much buried in there and just woven throughout the fabric of the movie that are going to get fans excited. Whether they're going to go to the Lion's Pride Tavern, whether they're going to see just places that they've been and spent weeks, months, years of their life in. They're going to get to actually see these places as real sumptuous, places that they'll feel at home. That's what I wanted. I wanted to make the movie in such a way that it absolutely works as a movie in its own right. But for those people who know about Warcraft, they're going to feel like they've gone home.
Nice. So you mentioned how, the film takes place between like the first contact between orcs and humans and kind of that storyline going back to the early days of the RTSs. I mean, was it also consideration to think of, hey, maybe we might have a franchise here on our hands. Let's leave plenty of room to grow. We can eventually get to the Warcraft 3 later storylines, etc.
I think everything is utterly dependent on how this film does. I think just for the fun of it, because you can't help yourself. When I was working with Chris Metzen a bit, we talked about, okay, if we did get the chance to do three movies, what would those three movies be? And we kind of have a sense of what those three movies would be. Anything beyond that is absolutely possible, but all things are going to be dependent on people enjoying and wanting more after they've seen this movie.
Yeah. I mean, Source Code was an ambitious film. Moon is an ambitious film. This just must be leaps and bounds beyond that. And I'm wondering, just as a filmmaker, what has it been like for you? What's this journey been like?
Well, I mean, I think as much as I may have consciously told myself I knew what I was jumping into with this movie, I think the marathon nature of this is something I wasn't ready for. It was 3.5 years.
Wow.
Source Code, we didn't even have a script. And by the time we'd finished the script and shot the film and it was finished and we'd edited it, it was 12 months.
Wow.
We finished it in a year. Source Code, again, was short, massively shorter in comparison to Warcraft. But Warcraft was 3.5 years, and I think trying to maintain the quality control and the focus and the energy and just the drive for 3.5 years on one project is really, really hard work. It's taxing, but we did it, and I'm proud of it, and now I just can't wait for June because I just want people to see it.
Yeah.
The internet is a hard place to live when you're basically hearing people talking about marketing but who haven't actually seen the movie yet.
Yeah, I'd love to. What is your sense of like the Warcraft community and their thoughts on the film? And do you have misconceptions you want to clear up?
Absolutely justified. I think the fans of Warcraft, more than any other game universe, are absolutely justified in feeling an ownership for something that they've spent so much of their time in. I don't think, whether it's Assassin's Creed or Angry Birds or, even Halo, I don't think people have spent as much time in as long-term a way as they have in the Warcraft universe.
Yeah.
I think people who play World of Warcraft, their marriages have been made and broken for the amount of time that people have played that game. So I think there is a real sense of ownership that I think has been earned, and I have and I respect that because I understand where it comes from.
And do you feel like they're skeptical about some things, or there's some things you want to drive home just to make it clear that this movie is not going to be this way that the marketing might have hinted that it's going to be, or anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, I think the fan base is just they just want to see the movie now. I mean, I think they've waited such a long time. The movie, they knew about a movie being made for such a long time, and it just took such a long time to happen that I think there was a real skepticism that it ever would. Even the first couple of years of us, we went to BlizzCon 3 times, and I think the first 2 times they were like, yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll see it when it comes out, if it ever comes out. So I think there was a real skepticism from that audience, and again, it's justified. Vaporware is a real thing. So I know that they're concerned. I know that they were concerned, but we've made a film. We're proud of it, and I just desperately want it to get out there so people can make up their minds for themselves.
Yeah, when Blizzard first got out of the gate, their announcement, I remember it with just them saying, "We're going to make a really good movie. No matter what, we're making a good movie." But then learning about that veto power that they had, and thinking about they are such perfectionists. I mean, they canceled Warcraft Adventures, StarCraft Ghost. Yeah. They have a history of just canceling things that aren't up to the quality bar that they want to set. So it's amazing you guys got it through production.
Like I said, it's been an exhausting process, and I think I'm a better politician and negotiator than I would have been had I not done it. I learned an awful lot of skills. I'll be running for the Senate, I'm sure, after this. I mean, it's you really have to, as long as you always respect and appreciate why it means so much to the people that it does mean something to. I think that helps keep you sane, and also helps calibrate your own emotional state about something. I may think something is absolutely the way to do it, and somebody else may think it's absolutely not the way to do it, but I know that I need to take the time to explain why I'm right for the movie, that it's the right reason to do something. Yeah. Because there is, like I said, there's 20 years of lore, it's a huge business, and there's a massive fan base that really cares about things being done right.
Yeah. So what are your plans for the premiere? Are you going to get together with the development team to send this baby off?
My plans for the premiere is my wife is due to have our first baby in June.
Oh,
which
wow.
is when the film comes out. So I'm hoping if we can get the timing right, we can do like a Horde Alliance choice for what our child is going to be.
Good God. Perfect.
Are you going to bring your guild to the premiere?
Really do that. That's not actually going to happen.
Are you going to have your guild at the premiere?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
You can't meet everybody.
How many real world meetups have you done with your guilds before?
I've done one and it went okay.
All right, there we go.
Oh, okay.
Well, no,
I think mine are a little crazier than yours. Then
might want to do it at the pub or something.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, but hey, Duncan, thank you so much for joining us, man. I feel like you've got this gigantic blockbuster under your belt now. You've really proven to Hollywood and the rest of the world, like, you can make anything at this point, right?
I don't know, but I guess the one thing I'm hoping is that I would love this to be the film that proves that you can make really solid movies based on video games, because there is absolutely no reason why it can't be done.
Yeah, here.
We would absolutely love to see it. Well, best of luck with the launch. We look forward to
Thank you.
seeing the movie and hearing the feedback and seeing this whole saga unfold. So thanks again for your time,
All right.
Duncan.
Yeah, thanks, Duncan.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Rainer, what a good chat.
Yeah, that was great.
Are you
What
feeling
a
more
huge
confident?
gamer. Yeah, I am. I can't wait to see this film.
Cool. You don't have to say it. He's not on the line anymore.
I know, but I mean, he said all the right things. I mean,
he pressed the right
He really
buttons.
did. Yes.
All right. But thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.